Chapter 3487. Increase in Strength. Suddenly, Lin Ling looked at the vast land and realized that there were many corpses of ferocious beasts. This was indeed the tomb of the ferocious beasts. Chaos, chaos, devours everything. All this time, I've been relying on the powerful physical strength of chaos to fight my enemies, but I've never discovered the true characteristics of chaos. Lin Ling had no way out. Since he could not escape death, he might as well fight to the death. Then, Lin Ling gave up resisting and allowed Tao Tai to devour him. Destroy and rebuild. Lin Ling took a gamble. He was betting that the realm-swallowing beast was immortal, especially in a world filled with ferocious beasts. He could use the ferocious beasts to revive. Roar! The giant Tao Tai tore at Lin Ling and swallowed pieces of Lin Ling's flesh. Lin Ling's body was also covered in blood. Roar! Tao Tai became even more excited. It opened its mouth and tore off another piece of Lin Ling's flesh. Gradually, Lin Ling began to disappear. He had been devoured alive by Tao Tai. After devouring Lin Ling, Tao Tai roared at the sky. Its body became even bigger and its strength reached the power of 7,000 worlds. It was terrifying. However, just as it was about to leave, something strange happened. The surrounding ferocious beasts rolled like a tide and turned into a large patch of dark clouds. Chaos! Looking at the dark clouds formed by the ferocious beasts, Tao Tai's expression changed. In the legends, chaos represented an immortal body. Now, it finally experienced it for itself. Moreover, the one who triggered the characteristics of chaos was a human. In the sky, the dark clouds began to wriggle, and a young man with a pitch-black body appeared. He was Lin Ling. However, he was covered in blood and seemed to have suffered serious injuries. The surrounding ferocious beasts were also frantically healing his body. The tomb of the ferocious beasts is indeed the place where chaos is revived. Destruction sometimes represents rebirth. Lin Ling stood quietly in the sky, his long hair fluttering in the wind as he muttered to himself. Earlier, he was actually gambling as well. Fortunately, he made the right bet. The realm-swallowing beast had an immortal and indestructible body. In a world with a murderous aura, it could indeed be revived. Unfortunately, there were very few such murderous auras in the world. If Lin Ling wanted to revive in the outside world, the only thing he could do was to create his own ominous aura. What a strong murderous aura! My realm-swallowing beast talent has reached the second-grade ultimate desolate body. After that, Lin Ling continuously sensed the changes in his body, and the corner of his mouth revealed an excited smile. He looked at Tao Tai and said indifferently, "Are you still coming?" Although he was still no match for the Tao Tai, in this world, he was immortal and indestructible. It was impossible for the Tao Tai to destroy him. Forget it, forget it. It's been a long time since I've seen an orthodox chaos. We're all four great ferocious beings. If we were to kill each other, it would only benefit others. You should leave. The Tao Tai looked at Lin Ling indifferently, shook its head and said, if Lin Ling was only a realm-swallowing beast, it would definitely not let Lin Ling go. However, Lin Ling had used the murderous aura to enhance his talent and had become a chaos. He was also a rare being in the universe like the Tao Tai. Therefore, it did not want to exterminate him. Hearing the Tao Tai's words, Lin Ling was a little surprised, but he still nodded. At this moment, a mysterious force enveloped his body and brought Lin Ling away from this murderous aura world. Sensing this, Lin Ling quickly returned to his human form. By the time he reacted, he had already appeared in the back mountain of the Snow Wind Academy. The vice president and the others were looking at Lin Ling in shock. This was because Lin Ling was covered in blood and seemed to have suffered serious injuries. Lin Ling, are you all right? Yes. The vice president hurriedly asked. Lin Ling smiled and shook his head. I'm fine. It's just some minor injuries. It's all right. Compared to the injuries on his body, Lin Ling was more concerned about the enhancement of the realm-swallowing beast's talent. As long as the murderous aura was not reduced, he, Lin Ling, would not die. In the 9 prefectures, only a late-stage martial ancestor could annihilate Lin Ling's murderous aura. I'll recuperate here for a moment. Lin Ling looked at the vice president and said. The vice president immediately nodded and took out a precious elixir and handed it to Lin Ling. He sensed that Lin Ling's strength had greatly increased, but the torture he had suffered in the Dragon Space Valley seemed to be not small. While Lin Ling was recuperating, several figures stood quietly at the gate of the Snow Wind City. They looked into the distance as if they were waiting for someone. Damn, Lin Ling actually became the number one in the Shin Air Hall. After waiting for a moment, a man suddenly said coldly. He was Yi Yiming. Beside him was a man in his 40s. His face was ugly as he said coldly, I don't know where this Lin Ling learned some unorthodox skills. Even Tian Ao is not his match. This is beyond my expectations. Teacher Zhou Lin, you are the messenger of God. Are you going to let Lin Ling shit on our heads? Yes, although Lin Ling has some skills, there are many people in the world who are stronger than him. What right does he have to humiliate Teacher Zhou Lin? The others spoke one after another, with Yi Yiming leading the group. Obviously, Lin Ling had knocked him unconscious twice. This had made him too ashamed to face anyone in the Snow Wind Academy. He had always wanted to take revenge for this humiliation. Teacher Zhou Lin was originally a little afraid of Lin Ling. However, the unreconciled words of the students caused the fear in his heart to disappear quietly. Towards Lin Ling, the resentment in his heart had obviously surpassed the fear of Lin Ling. Moreover, he guessed that the reason why the Snow Wind Academy valued Lin Ling was because Lin Ling was the number one in the Shen Air Hall. However, in the final world, strength sometimes did not rule everything. Unless you had the strength to sweep away all the strong people in the final world. So relationships were also the most important in the final world. Lin Ling was a country bumpkin from the 9 states. What kind of relationship could he have in the final world? After receiving Lord Fu, I will slowly think of a way to deal with Lin Ling. It would be best to cripple him. Without strength, the Snow Wind Academy would not put him in their eyes. Teacher Zhou Lin said fiercely. His words made Yi Yiming and the others happy. Teacher Zhou Lin was the messenger of God. He knew many strong people. He definitely had a way to cripple Lin Ling. They're here. At this time, Zhou Lin's eyes suddenly lit up. He saw a huge white crane flying over from the distant horizon. There were several people standing on the white crane. They were in high spirits and their strength was extraordinary. City Lord Fu. Yi Yiming and the others were also happy. Speaking of which, City Lord Fu was also the city lord of a main city. He had a good relationship with Teacher Zhou Lin. Today, they wanted to take a walk around Snow Wind City, so they let Zhou Lin be their tour guide. Hee, Teacher Zhou Lin, after our parting, I have a whole new level of respect for you today. Not long after, the huge white crane landed on the ground. A man in the lead waved his hand and the white crane immediately turned into a stream of light and disappeared into his robe. You flatter me, but Lord Fu has been rising steadily. I'm afraid he has already had the opportunity to meet a god. Chapter 3488. Bandits. Haha. Lord Fu laughed. However, he did not pretend to be an expert in front of Zhou Lin. After all, Zhou Lin was a teacher of the academy and a messenger of God. He had great potential in the future. I'll be the host and show Lord Fu around Snow City. Next, Zhou Lin brought Lord Fu and the others into Snow City to entertain Lord Fu. Lord Fu was the governor of a main city. He had come to Snow City to visit Songqiri. However, he did not have a good relationship with Songqiri, so he did not bother to visit him. As time passed, Master Zhou Lin also took Lord Fu around the entire snow-blowing city. This made Lord Fu's mood very good. Judging from the management of snow-blowing city, Lord Fu's main city still has a lot to learn. Wait. They just passed through a street when Lord Fu suddenly stopped in his tracks, and his brows were tightly knit together. He glanced at the courtyards on both sides of the street. Suddenly, his eyes fell on one of the courtyards. After examining it carefully, his expression changed drastically. Spiritual marrow. He did not expect Snow City to have spiritual marrow. Lord Fu's eyes flickered. Ordinary people did not know what spiritual marrow was, but he had read about it in ancient books. He knew that spiritual marrow could speed up the growth of one's talent. Then, he pushed the door open and entered the courtyard. He immediately saw the ancient boundary array in the courtyard. This made him realize that the owner of the courtyard also knew about spiritual marrow and was using it to his advantage. Lord Fu, what are you doing? Zhou Lin, who was next to him, was confused. Master Zhou Lin, there is something I need in this courtyard. I want to buy it. I wonder if you can do it for me? Of course, if you can buy it, I will pay you handsomely. Lord Fu looked at Zhou Lin and said, "This courtyard had an ancient spirit formation, and the might of the spirit marrow had been excavated. It had saved him a lot of effort. How could he not buy such a precious land?" Zhou Lin was stunned. Then he smiled faintly and said, "Lord Fu, you have found the right person. In Snow City, there is nothing that I, Zhou Lin, cannot do." "That's great." Lord Fu was overjoyed. At this moment, several figures walked out of the hall of the courtyard. There was an old man, a young man, and a little girl. They frowned at the group of uninvited guests. "Who are you? Why did you barge into our courtyard?" That afterimage immediately said indifferently, "It's you." Zhou Lin, Yi Yiming, and the others clearly recognized the afterimage. They never thought that this courtyard was actually Lin Ling's. "All of you, get out of the courtyard." That Yi Yiming immediately hooted loudly. Originally, he hadn't been able to find a way to deal with Lin Ling, but now he did. With Lord Fu's appearance, how could a mere Lin Ling resist? "We were the ones who bought this courtyard. Why do we have to scram?" Kan Jian frowned and said immediately, "Hee, you bought it? Who knows if you stole it or not? I'll give you 3 breaths of time to scram. Otherwise, don't blame us for being rude." Zhou Lin also laughed sinisterly. Hearing this, Xiao Yu and the others became anxious. This courtyard had been modified by Big Brother Lin Ling and set up a large number of enchantments. These guys wanted to snatch it away with just a few words? Scram. Seeing that they were stubbornly refusing to leave, Lord Fu took a step forward. A tyrannical aura immediately spread out and swept towards Xiao Yu. Xiao Yu's tender little face was immediately slapped and her small body rushed out of the courtyard. "Xiao Yu!" Dou Xian and the others hurriedly rushed out of the courtyard. When they saw the clear palm print on Xiao Yu's little face, they immediately felt heartache. However, although Xiao Yu's little face was stinging, she was still very strong. She bit her lips tightly and did not say a word. "Let's go and find Lord Fu." Dou Xian immediately carried Xiao Yu on his back and walked towards Snow Wind Academy. Originally, with Lin Ling's status in Snow Wind City, it was impossible for Lord Fu to snatch the courtyard. However, Lin Ling did not want to attract too much attention, so he withdrew the people around the courtyard. This caused Lord Fu and the others to be so arrogant. Not bad at all. "Haha, you've actually set up so many spirit formations. It really saved me a lot of effort. Moreover, the materials needed to set up the spirit formations must be priceless." At this moment, Lord Fu was walking around the courtyard. He was constantly looking around and the smile on his face became even more brilliant. To him, this was simply a pleasant surprise. "Who is the owner of this courtyard?" Lord Fu asked again. "He's only a junior, the number 1 of the God's second hall of the Snow Wind Academy. Although he has some ability, he can't compare to Lord Fu." Zhou Lin immediately flattered. "Haha." Lord Fu was completely relieved. He was the city lord and the owner of the courtyard was only the number 1 of the God's second hall. There was simply no comparison. Presumably, as long as he went to the Snow Wind Academy to ask for the person, the Snow Wind Academy's headmaster would not stop him. Afterwards, they set up the courtyard again. During the process of setting up the courtyard, laughter was unceasing. They were completely unaware that a great disaster was about to befall them. At this moment, in the Snow Wind Academy, after Lin Ling recovered from his injuries, he immediately left the Snow Wind Academy and walked in the direction of the courtyard. However, just as he walked out of the Snow Wind Academy, Lin Ling immediately saw several familiar figures running over. This caused Lin Ling to be overjoyed because it was Xiao Yu and the others. However, just as he was about to greet them, he immediately discovered that something was wrong with Xiao Yu and the others. There was a clear palm print on Xiao Yu's face. Xiao Yu's eyes were filled with tears but she endured it and did not cry. Lin Ling's expression immediately became ugly. Xiao Yu was so innocent and naive. Someone actually dared to do such a thing to her? "Young master, please convict us." After Dou Kening rushed over to Lin Ling, he immediately knelt down on one knee and reported what had happened earlier. Hearing that, Lin Ling was enraged. It was as if a volcano had erupted in his heart. He did not blame Dou Kening for this matter because that group of people were clearly not people that Dou Kening and the others could stop. He did not expect that teacher Zhou Lin was also involved in this matter. They had robbed his courtyard and reaped the benefits of being a fisherman. Now, they even dared to hit Xiao Yu. Moreover, this was only Snow Wind City. If it was any other place, those bandits would most likely kill people. Let's go back, Lin Ling coldly shouted. He looked at Do Kening and said, Old Do, you go and inform the city lord. I want to see if those guys can fly around here. Okay. Do Kening nodded excitedly and quickly left. Lin Ling held Xiao Yu's hand and walked towards the direction of the courtyard step by step. With his footsteps, murderous and ominous aura filled the air like thunder. Wherever he walked, many martial artists felt a chill in their hearts, as if they had seen some ominous creature. Outside the courtyard, several figures were guarding the gate and excitedly chatting. Hee. Teacher Zhou Lin helped Lord Fu this time. Lord Fu must be extremely grateful to Teacher Zhou Lin. Perhaps, Teacher Zhou Lin can compete for the position of vice principal next time. Then, we are not below one person and above thousands? Chapter 3489. You slapped my face? Yi Yiming and the rest were stunned. It was Lin Ling. Lin Ling had returned. Yi Yiming and the rest could not help but laugh. They thought that even if Lin Ling knew about the courtyard, he would definitely not dare to come. Haha, Lin Ling, your courtyard has been robbed. Why? Are you unhappy? Yi Yiming took the lead and shouted. He had lost to Lin Ling twice and had been knocked unconscious. This was a great humiliation. Therefore, when he saw that Lin Ling was being bullied, he immediately felt elated. Yi Yiming. Lin Ling, with Xiao Yu and the broken sword, did not stop walking. They had already arrived at the entrance of the courtyard. Let me give you a piece of advice. The city lord of Flying Frost City has taken a liking to this courtyard. If you know what's good for you, get lost immediately. After Yi Yiming laughed, he immediately looked at Lin Ling fiercely and said, Lord Fu is the city lord of a main city. Who do you think you are, Lin Ling? You actually want to compete with him? Get lost. The others also spoke one after another. I'm sorry. You guys are so arrogant. So you have a city lord as your backer. Lin Ling immediately understood and nodded. So what if I do? If you're unhappy, bite me. Let me tell you, we are in charge of guarding the courtyard for Lord Fu. If we lose a single hair, you, Lin Ling, will have offended the city lord of a main city. Yi Yiming said proudly. However, just as he finished speaking, the tyrannical song sword appeared in Lin Ling's hand and slashed at the others. These people were not even as strong as Yi Yiming. They could not block Lin Ling's slash at all and were easily cut in half by Lin Ling. Yi Yiming's eyes immediately trembled. He knew that he was not Lin Ling's opponent, so he brought up the city lord. However, who knew that Lin Ling did not seem to know who the city lord was? He killed him as he pleased, lawless. So what if he's the city lord? Lin Ling looked at Yi Yiming. Yi Yiming's whole body trembled and he suddenly shouted, Lin Ling, in snow-blowing city, killing people is punishable by the city lord's punishment. Don't you dare touch me. At this moment, he was completely flustered. However, as soon as he finished speaking, Lin Ling lifted his leg and kicked out. That kick had a mysterious power exploding. It made Lin Ling's right leg turn black. This was the body of the world-swallowing beast. Currently, the realm-swallowing beast had achieved the second-class ultimate Baron body. Its physical strength had increased by 1,000 realms. Its speed had also increased by 100 realms. Yi Yiming was no match for Lin Ling in the past, let alone now. Yi Yiming immediately shot into the courtyard like a cannonball and smashed into the ground. Inside the courtyard, Lord Fu, Zhou Lin, and the others were still inspecting the courtyard. At this moment, they were undoubtedly shocked. Who is it? Sir, it seems to be Teacher Zhou Lin's student, Yi Yiming. The experts beside Lord Fu all frowned and said. Lord Fu and Zhou Lin's expressions immediately turned ugly. Someone had dared to touch their people right under their noses. Rumble. However, before they could finish their thoughts, a huge ancient tablet came crashing down from the sky. It accurately hit Yi Yiming's body, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood more than 10 meters away. He could no longer move. Who is so bold? The attendant beside Lord Fu was so angry that his voice became hoarse. It was one thing to throw Yi Yiming in, but to use a stone tablet to smash him? How arrogant! At the same time, several figures walked into the courtyard. It was Lin Ling and the others. When Teacher Zhou Lin saw them, he was furious. It was Lin Ling. Furthermore, he saw that Lin Ling was holding several figures in his hands and throwing them to the ground. Upon closer inspection, those figures were his students. Moreover, they seemed to have been killed by Lin Ling. This made teacher Zhou Lin's anger reach its peak. Several of his students had been killed, and Yi Yiming was suppressed by the space-time divine steel. Lin Ling was too arrogant and lawless. Just as he was about to attack Lin Ling, a cold voice suddenly came from the side. Teacher Zhou Lin, this person is so arrogant. Who is he? The person who spoke was Lord Fu. At that moment, he brought a chair over and sat down calmly. Obviously, he was not in a hurry. He just wanted to know if the young man would regret his actions if he did not care about the consequences. This was because killing teacher Zhou Lin's students was a serious crime. As long as the city lord of Blizzard City convicted the young man, even if he did not die, he would lose a layer of skin. Arrogant? When Lin Ling heard Lord Fu's words, he immediately laughed. Who was the arrogant one to rob someone else's courtyard in broad daylight? You don't have to ask. My name is Lin Ling, and I'm the owner of this courtyard. Lin Ling did not hide anything and said calmly, Lin Ling, how dare you not kneel down and greet Lord Fu when you see him? You're too lawless. When Zhou Lin saw Lin Ling's nonchalant expression, he pointed at Lin Ling and screamed, Teacher Zhou Lin, I thought you were a messenger of God and a teacher of the academy. No matter how trashy you are, you should at least be human. However, you've disappointed me. Kneel down and greet me? Are you born to be a servant? Or do you teach the students in the academy to kneel down and greet them? Sigh, it's better for a teacher like you to die early so that you don't implicate others. Hearing this, Lin Ling said calmly. Zhou Lin was so angry that his hair stood on end and his eyes turned red. Bastard, I'm going to kill you. In Zhou Lin's opinion, Lin Ling had offended Lord Fu and was doomed to die. Even the vice dean would not be able to save Lin Ling. Teacher Zhou Lin, calm down. However, at this moment, Lord Fu drank his tea and waved his hand calmly. Zhou Lin immediately stopped attacking. After blowing on his tea, Lord Fu glanced at Lin Ling and said, Boy, I have to say that you're really brave. However, you don't know my identity. Otherwise, you wouldn't dare to be so arrogant. That's right, ignorant boy. How dare you be so arrogant? I'll give you a slap in the face. Do you dare to come? Hearing Lord Fu's words, the others immediately clamored. Lord Fu smiled and drank his tea again. He could understand Lin Ling's anger, but he also knew that Lin Ling did not know his identity. Otherwise, Lin Ling would have knelt down and admitted his mistake. Lin Ling was expressionless when he heard their words. He let go of Xiao Yu's hand and walked toward one of the elders. Slap. Then, the crisp sound of a slap was heard. The elder had been slapped hard by Lin Ling. At this moment, his eyes narrowed as if he could not believe his eyes. He was a late-stage martial ancestor, and his backer was the city governor of the main city. However, an ordinary-looking boy had slapped him in the face. Did this boy know what he was doing? Did he know how much trouble this would bring? For a moment, the elder touched his face and stood there in a daze. Lin Ling ignored him and walked to the next person. Then, another slap was heard. This time, it was a middle-aged man who was slapped. His strength was not weak either. Chapter 3490. Fight to the death. Weren't you the ones who asked me to hit you? Lin Ling didn't even look at him as he walked towards the next person. Following that, another hearty slap sounded. Those who were hit didn't do anything either. They just sat there in a daze. Perhaps to them, killing Lin Ling was as easy as flipping their hands. However, before killing an ant like Lin Ling, they wanted Lin Ling to deeply understand how lowly he was and what kind of powerhouse he had provoked. Smack. The next person to be hit was teacher Zhou Lin. He had clearly been slapped silly. He never expected Lin Ling to be so bold. Finally, Lin Ling came before Lord Fu. At this moment, Lord Fu was still sipping his tea. His eyes were half closed as he muttered to himself. Number 1 of the Shen Air Hole. No wonder you have such courage. However, in the final world, individual strength isn't the only thing. Unless you have the strength to dominate everything, relationships are also very important. Therefore, no matter how talented you are, as long as you dare to make a move, I can guarantee that even your deputy dean won't be able to protect you. Perhaps you might doubt my ability, but let me remind you. Don't let the truth come to pass because of your doubts. When that happens, you will definitely regret it. After taking a sip of tea, Lord Fu raised his head and spoke in a threatening tone. Lin Ling frowned as he looked indifferently at his left and right hands. Upon seeing this, Teacher Zhou Lin and the others immediately laughed. Lin Ling finally knew what kind of existence Lord Fu was. He must be regretting it now. When Lord Fu saw Lin Ling's expression, he nodded. He knew that Lin Ling had been affected by him. At the end of the day, he was still the city lord of a main city. He held a high position all year round, so he definitely had the aura of a superior. He immediately wanted to speak, but at this moment, Lin Ling also spoke. Previously, I was thinking about which hand I should hit you with. However, after thinking about it, I decided to forget about it because it doesn't make much of a difference. Also, I plan to hit you with both hands. After saying this, Lin Ling raised his hand, looked at Lord Fu, who was still drinking tea, and viciously slapped him twice. 2 slaps. That was one more slap than anyone else before. Furthermore, Lin Ling should have more or less sense that Lord Fu was no ordinary person. And yet, he still dared to attack him, and did so without hesitation. This guy was a lunatic. My lord! Teacher Zhou Lin and the other powerhouses cried out in shock. However, Lord Fu raised his hand to stop them. Then, he stroked his cheek as though he wanted to find the pleasure of slapping him. It's been a long time since someone dared to slap me. It seems like what I said to you before was nothing more than a gust of wind. I originally wanted to spare your life, but I can't seem to find any reason to do so now. Tell me, how do you want to die? His voice was still calm, as if he was talking to a friend. However, those who knew him knew that Lord Fu was angry. Once, in Lord Fu's main city, when he was angry, he killed hundreds of thousands of people in one night. As the governor of a main city, he had the right to do so. What a joke. You robbed my courtyard and hit my Xiaoyu. I haven't even asked you how you want to die, and you're asking me how I want to die? I can tell you that you won't be able to leave Blizzard City today. Also, you may not believe me, but I, Lin Ling, will say that if any of you leave Blizzard City alive, it'll be my loss. At this time, Lin Ling also spoke indifferently. Haha, are you dreaming? Lord Fu immediately laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. This was because even the governor of Blizzard City did not dare to speak to him like this. However, before he could finish laughing, a rolling storm swept across the sky. When he looked up, he saw countless divine wolves galloping in the sky, heading toward the courtyard. Outside the courtyard, a large number of experts had also appeared. They had actually surrounded the courtyard so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. At the same time, an angry voice resounded through the sky. What he said is not a fool's dream. When these words drifted into the ears of Lord Fu and the others, their expressions changed drastically. They knew that it was Xueqi, the governor of Blizzard City. As for Teacher Zhou Lin, he was so scared that he fell to the ground with a plop. His face was as pale as paper. However, at this moment, Lord Fu waved his hand at them and said, "It's fine. There should be some misunderstanding between us and City Lord Song. Let me explain. He shouldn't care about this matter anymore." After all, this was Blizzard City, not his main city, so Lord Fu did not dare to be too arrogant. Of course, he was the governor of a main city, so Governor Song would give him face. City Lord Song, I hope you've been well since we last met. Today I passed by your city and wanted to pay you a visit, but I ended up wasting some time on some trivial matters. Speaking of which, the people of your snow-blowing city are quite rude. Lord Fu cupped his fists and said politely. Of course, at the same time, he did not forget to accuse Lin Ling of a serious crime. Fuck you. However, the god wolf in the sky roared and threw a punch at Lord Fu. Lord Fu was startled. It seemed that Governor Song was very angry with him. At this critical moment, he activated his powerful strength and blocked Xueqi's attack. He frowned and asked, "Governor Song, what do you mean by this?" "What do I mean? Let me tell you, you won't be able to walk out of Blizzard City today." In the sky, the majestic god wolf stopped. A majestic man was riding on top of it, and he looked majestic without being angry. Why is this? Lord Fu was even more confused. Suddenly, he looked at Lin Ling and thought, is it because of this kid? However, No matter how powerful this kid is, it is not worth it for Governor Tsong to fall out with him. Unless this kid is Governor Tsong's father. I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding between us. With that in mind, Lord Fu added, I've misunderstood your whole family. Kill them. However, Governor Tsong's murderous intent exploded, and he used all kinds of powerful attacks to suppress Lord Fu. Moreover, these attacks were so powerful that they did not affect the courtyard at all. Lord Fu was suddenly under great pressure. He kept blocking the attacks, and his face turned black with anger. Governor Tsong, why? He asked angrily. He could not understand why Governor Tsong had gone crazy. There's no need to ask. You'll know when you go to hell. Unfortunately, Governor Tsong did not even bother to explain. He just wanted to kill Lord Fu. This undoubtedly infuriated Lord Fu. He wanted to flare up several times, but he held himself back because this was Snow Wind City and not his territory. Governor Tsong, I'll apologize for this, okay? Go to hell. Governor Tsong, how about we each take a step back? If there's any loss, just tell me. I'll do my best to compensate you. Chapter 3491. Could it be the Celestial King Patriarch? No matter what Lord Fu said, City Lord Song was determined to kill him. This almost caused Lord Fu to faint. This seemed to be a fight to the death. However, he had only snatched a courtyard. Was there a need for that? He couldn't help but take a deep look at Lin Ling. He was even more curious about Lin Ling, especially when he thought about how he had put on an act in front of Lin Ling. He felt a deep sense of shame. It turned out that despite what he had said, the other party wasn't afraid of him at all. On the contrary, he, Lord Fu, was afraid of this kid. We'll decide who's better in the future. We'll meet again someday. Lord Fu knew that if this continued, there would be no winner, so he decided to retreat. However, as soon as he rushed out of the courtyard, a lightning snake rushed out of the void and wrapped around him tightly. The black lightning was extremely terrifying, and it wreaked havoc until Lord Fu kept vomiting blood. His expression turned into one of panic at this moment. There was actually another powerhouse. At the same time, an old woman appeared in front of him. Her eyes were cold, and her face was expressionless. She looked at him as if she was looking at a corpse. In that instant, Lord Fu's heart was filled with deep regret. He didn't doubt that the old woman would really kill him. He never expected that City Lord Song and the old woman would kill him for the sake of a kid. Moreover, they didn't talk about reason at all and directly started killing him. Why? City Lord Song. I'm the City Lord of a main city. If you kill me, how will you explain it to the people behind me? Why don't we both take a step back? Lord Fu kept begging for mercy. Upon hearing this, City Lord Song frowned, as if recalling Lord Fu's words. Explain it to them? Seeing that City Lord Song was moved, Lord Fu was delighted. He wanted to persuade him again, but at that moment, City Lord Song's gaze changed and surged with killing intent. You don't have to worry about that. Instead, I'll take care of your family for you. Senior sister, do it. No! Lord Fu roared at the sky, but he couldn't stop the combined attack of City Lord Song and the old woman. In the end, he was crushed alive. In the courtyard, the experts that Lord Fu had brought were looking at the sky with pale faces. Dead. Their city lord was dead. And the reason was because he had offended a little brat? Fuck. Could this brat be the heavenly king ancestor? Kill them all. While they were still in shock, City Lord Song's cold voice came from the sky. Plop. The experts brought by Lord Fu all knelt down. City Lord Song, this has nothing to do with us. We're all innocent. It was all Lord Fu's idea. Innocent? All right, then read it for me. How do you read the words on the door of this courtyard? City Lord Song's voice rang out. Lin Mansion. Someone with sharp eyes immediately replied. Now, do you still dare to say that you are innocent? Such big words are hanging there. You snatched someone else's residence and you still have the nerve to say that it has nothing to do with you? Most importantly, of all people, you actually dared to steal from him. Kill. City Lord Song immediately waved his hand and said with a look of disdain. Spare us. The experts begged for mercy, but it was of no use. A moment later, all the people that Lord Fu had brought were dead. The only one left alive was Yi Yiming, who was under the space-time divine steel. Although he was suppressed by the space-time divine steel, he could clearly see what had happened in front of him. He was dumbfounded. He had thought that Lin Ling was only the number one in the Shin Air Hall. Daring to provoke Lord Fu was simply courting death. But now, even Lord Fu had been killed. Terrifying. Fuck, who exactly was the one that couldn't be provoked? While he was still in shock, Lin Ling also withdrew the space-time divine steel. However, he ignored Yi Yiming and looked into the distance. Teacher Zhou Lin actually escaped. In the chaos earlier, Teacher Zhou Lin had actually shamelessly escaped. This was something that even Lin Ling hadn't noticed. Young Lord, he can't escape anywhere. I reckon he's probably back to Snow Wind Academy. City Lord Song immediately said. All right, let's go to Snow Wind Academy to find him. Lin Ling glanced at Xiao Yu and his gaze landed on the clear image of the slap. His eyes immediately turned cold again. Xiao Yu was the reverse scale in Lin Ling's heart. Not to mention a mere Zhou Lin, even if it was the principal of Snow Wind Academy, as long as he dared to hit Xiao Yu, Lin Ling would dare to risk his life. After all, Lin Ling had already promised Xiao Yu's grandfather that he would protect her. Then let's go to Snow Wind Academy now. City Lord Song also knew that Lin Ling was furious and hurriedly arranged everything. Next, the group of people majestically headed towards Snow Wind Academy. As for Yi Yiming in the courtyard, he was naturally taken away by the guards. Whether he was alive or dead, this was not something that Lin Ling cared about. At this moment, Teacher Zhou Lin's face was filled with panic as he madly ran towards Snow Wind Academy. Previously, he was scared out of his wits. Lord Fu, the city lord of a main city, was actually killed. Moreover, it was all for Lin Ling. What kind of background did this Lin Ling have? For him, City Lord Song actually killed his ally? Was he crazy? At this moment, his heart was extremely flustered. Perhaps it was the first time in his life that he was so flustered. I must immediately return to Snow Wind Academy. Otherwise, City Lord Song will definitely kill me. And Snow Wind Academy is not under City Lord Song's jurisdiction. He will definitely be helpless. Teacher Zhou Lin secretly said in his heart. Then he felt lucky. Fortunately, he ran quickly before, otherwise the consequences would be unimaginable. Teacher Zhou Lin, why do you look so flustered? Just as he returned to Snow Wind Academy, a teacher immediately looked at Zhou Lin and asked, Is the vice principal here? Teacher Zhou Lin ignored him and quickly asked, Yes, I saw him not long ago. He seems to have gone to Shen San Hall. The teacher immediately said. Teacher Zhou Lin did not care about him and immediately went to the vice principal. As long as he stayed by the vice principal's side, he would be safe and sound. He did not believe that a mere Lin Ling would be able to get the vice dean to help him. Teacher Zhou Lin, what is wrong with you? When Teacher Zhou Lin found the vice principal looked at him with a puzzled face. Zhou Lin immediately found an excuse and casually dealt with it. His purpose was to stay by the vice principal's side. However, just as the two of them exchanged a few words, a teacher immediately informed them that Lin Ling had come to Snow Wind Academy. Moreover, he had specifically asked for Teacher Zhou Lin by name and wanted to kill him. This sentence could be said to be extremely arrogant. What? I have never had any grudges with Lin Ling. He actually wants to kill me? This Lin Ling is too lawless. Zhou Lin was also shocked by Lin Ling's efficiency. He had just arrived and Lin Ling had followed closely behind. However, he would definitely not admit it even if he was beaten to death. Chapter 3492. Literati Star. When they arrived at the entrance of the academy, there was already a sea of people as far as the eye could see. Moreover, there were as many experts as there were clouds. Their neatly arranged armor was like an ancient city wall that completely blocked the entrance of the academy. As for the students of the academy, they were, without a doubt, extremely shocked. They didn't know who had created such a huge scene, daring to surround the academy. When the vice principal walked out, he was also secretly shocked. Soon, his gaze also fell on Lin Ling. Teacher Zhou Lin, even your students didn't escape. As a teacher, you led the way and even abandoned your own students. I have to say, you are really a good-for-nothing. After a moment of silence, Lin Ling spoke first. Lin Ling, What nonsense are you talking about? How could Mr. Zhou Lin admit it? With snot and tears he said, I know I offended you last time, but after that, I have already apologized. Why do you have to be so aggressive? He spoke as if he was the victim, and many of the students began to sympathize with him. Pretend, keep pretending. If I don't take your life today, I, Lin Ling, won't leave. Seeing this, Lin Ling sneered. If not for Master Zhou Lin, Lord Fu might not have set his sights on his courtyard. Therefore, Master Zhou Lin was most likely involved in this matter. Lin Ling, don't you think you've gone too far? If you want to harm me, you can find the evidence. As long as everything is as you say, I, Zhou Lin, will give you my head. But now, you have no proof and are casually slandering me. Do you really think that the Wind Snow Academy is your home? Teacher Zhou Lin said with a straight face. His words made even more students support him. No matter what, Teacher Zhou Lin was still a teacher of the Snow Wind Academy. Naturally, there would be more people supporting him. As for Lin Ling, it was all based on his own words. How could others believe him? Seeing so many people in the Wind Snow Academy supporting him, Teacher Zhou Lin secretly laughed. He glanced at Lin Ling and thought, Lin Ling, you are too inexperienced to fight with me. This academy is my territory. Not to mention you, a mere Lin Ling. Even if the gods came, they would not be able to do anything to me. Then, Teacher Zhou Lin felt that the atmosphere was about right. He hurriedly tried to smooth things over and said, Lin Ling, perhaps there is some misunderstanding between us. But no matter if it's an illusion or a real, I hope that from now on, we can shake hands and make peace. From now on, although I am innocent, but here I am. Of people. Of Teacher Zhou Lin Ling. Come. After he finished speaking, he was looking forward to hearing the vice president's polite words. However, the vice president also spoke, Teacher Zhou Lin, you should go over. Of Zhou Studio. Teacher Zhou Lin suspected that he had misheard. I say you should go to Lin Ling's side. The vice president had made it very clear this time. At this moment, not only was Teacher Zhou Lin dumbfounded, even the surrounding students were dumbfounded. This vice dean, could it be that you really believe Lin Ling's words? Teacher Zhou Lin became a little anxious. If he was taken away by Lin Ling, would he still be alive? Therefore, no matter what, he had to grab hold of the vice principal's thick thigh. Hearing this, the vice principal shook his head. This action made Teacher Zhou Lin instantly happy. It seemed that the vice principal did not believe in Lin Ling. However, the vice president's next sentence directly sent Teacher Zhou Lin into the abyss. It doesn't matter whether you believe me or not. What matters is that he wants you as a person. The vice president said solemnly. Fuck. What's going on? So you're saying that even if Lin Ling deliberately makes things difficult for Teacher Zhou Lin, Lord Vice Dean will still accompany him in his act? Everyone exclaimed. How could it be like this? Teacher Zhou Lin was dumbfounded. He finally understood what the vice president meant. No matter what Lin Ling wanted to do, as long as he wants you as a person, I will hand you over. Don't. Vice President. Save me. After thinking it through, Teacher Zhou Lin panicked and shouted. Unfortunately, the vice president ignored him. Instead, he waved his sleeve and a powerful force pushed Teacher Zhou Lin over. Teacher Zhou Lin was caught alive by Xueqi. Xueqi nodded to the vice president and did not say anything because he knew that it was not convenient for him to explain things now. After this, he would pay a visit to the vice president in person, and the latter would definitely understand what he meant. On the contrary, Lin Ling looked at Teacher Zhou Lin indifferently and said, Teacher Zhou Lin, do you think you can run away? But sometimes, I admire your courage. As long as you don't provoke me, you'll be able to do whatever you want. But you know that there's a tiger in the mountain, yet you still insist on going to the tiger's mountain. You even hit my daughter. Haha. Do you know that your useless life can't even compare to a single strand of my daughter's hair? Take him away. After saying that, Lin Ling waved his hand and took the lead to leave the Snow Wind Academy. Zhou Lin's face was full of decadence. He knew that he was finished. Of course, if he knew that he was the one who caused Xiao Yu to be beaten, and who Xiao Yu's grandfather was, then he would be sure that even if he had 100 lives, it would not be enough. The matter of the courtyard had finally come to an end. However, in order to prevent the previous incident from happening again, Mayor Tsong had ordered people to block the entire street. The entire street belonged to Lin Ling. On the other hand, Lin Ling once again moved back to the courtyard.
However, he had to know that the reason Mayor Tsong was willing to go to such great lengths to help him was because of the trial of God.
Therefore, Lin Ling was also looking forward to the arrival of the second task. When Lin Ling had just settled Xiao Yu and the others, the old woman also found Lin Ling. She first looked at Lin Ling with a smile and then told him the location of this task. It was in the literary world. And what Lin Ling had to do was to go to the literary world, find the world's will, and bring it back. The literary world is an extremely ordinary world in the eastern border. The world's will is hidden inside. Lin Ling, what you have to do is to find the world's will faster than the others. After explaining the task, the old woman warned Lin Ling, and if this task is completed, you can also put forward any conditions to me.
Okay.
Lin Ling immediately nodded, but he also asked doubtfully, but the literary world is so big, how do I find the world's will? You asked a good question. In fact, the world's will is a kind of power that does not exist in the 9 regions. It has many, what you are looking for is only one of them. However, it has a similar characteristic. As long as you bring the 10th water stone, when you get close to the world's will, the 10th water stone will become pitch black. Chapter 3493. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. Lin Ling, I know that you have many enemies, and I believe that you can take revenge with your own hands. But as long as you complete the divine trial, the time you need to improve your strength will be greatly reduced. So, you must complete this mission. After seeing Lin Ling put away the stone, the old woman said, Don't worry, I'll be watching over here. What happened last time will never happen again. Lin Ling naturally knew what the old woman was talking about. He smiled and nodded. I don't think you can find a second idiot like Zhou Lin in the Snow Wind Academy. Go. The old woman suddenly smiled. Lin Ling immediately bid farewell and left. This trip directly left the final world and headed towards the east border. Speaking of which, with Lin Ling's strength, even in the 9 regions, he was an extraordinary existence, not to mention in the myriad worlds. Therefore, when Lin Ling was walking slowly, those people who passed by him were all shocked and scared out of their wits. Some of the more timid ones even knelt down in the void and kowtowed in the direction Lin Ling left. To them, the strength of the person who passed by before was too strong. They were afraid that even a god could not be compared to him. Another 3 days passed, and the literary world finally welcomed an expert. His face was a little travel-worn, but when he arrived at the literary world, the corners of his mouth immediately revealed a smile. I've arrived. This person was Lin Ling. For 3 days, he kept hurrying along. At first, he used a slow speed, then he used his full strength and finally arrived at the literary world in a short period of time. However, after arriving, he found that the literary world was extremely ordinary. Not to mention the Sage Realm, he did not even see a half-step Sage Realm. But after thinking about it, it was normal. After all, this was the east border. Walking along the ancient yellow road, Lin Ling hid his cultivation and wore a large cloak. Then, he looked at the milky white stone in his hand. After seeing that the surface of the stone had an additional black color, he slowly walked towards a small town at the end of the road. After entering the small town, Lin Ling saw that the environment of the small town was not very good. It was somewhat shabby and the ground was somewhat dirty. It was somewhat different from the isolated small town he imagined. However, as more and more people gathered around, Lin Ling also knew that this was a place where dragons and snakes mixed together. The most important thing was that the order here was much more chaotic than in the final world. But for Lin Ling, it was the same everywhere. He had long been used to it. Let me go, let me go. What do you want? At this moment, a woman's pained voice suddenly came from an inn in front of them. Looking carefully, they saw a young girl around 18 or 19 years old being grabbed by the arm by a bald man with a ferocious face. The man was obviously not a good person, and he was currently smiling lecherously. As for the surrounding cultivators, they all frowned at this moment. They seemed to be somewhat accustomed to this. Perhaps they also knew that if they wanted to be the hero to save the beauty, they must have the strength to defeat the bald man. But for this, most of them obviously did not have such confidence. Sir, you've been staring at me for a long time. Are you not convinced? Sigh. The bald man hugged the young woman and smelled her fragrance.
His gaze suddenly looked towards the other side of the inn and spoke. There, a man was sitting with his back to them.
This man had elegant long hair that scattered over half of his face. His sharp gaze was faintly discernible through his hair, giving off an extremely sharp feeling. Snatching a woman in broad daylight. Lawless. Lawless. The purple-clothed man suddenly spoke indifferently. Husband, save me. Seeing that someone was willing to step forward, the beautiful woman shouted excitedly. Don't worry, I will save you.
The purple-clothed man drank a mouthful of wine and then slammed the table.
On the table, an exquisite sword shot out. After the purple-clothed man grasped it, a purple sword flower was shaken out. Kacha!
It was as if thunder had struck the inn.
The moment the purple sword appeared, the sturdy tables began to crack from the inside. It was extremely terrifying. Purple mist swordsman?
As for the bald man, the corner of his mouth curled into a cold smile.
The blood behind him churned and rushed into the sky, forming a large blood mist. Within the blood mist, a palm shot out and stirred up the blood mist like a tidal vortex. Rumble! What was even more terrifying was that the blood mist palm actually blocked the purple-clothed man's sword. With such little strength, you want to be the hero to save the beauty? You're a coward. The bald man immediately laughed in disdain. His words made the purple-clothed man's face gloomy.
He suddenly bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood on the sword.
The tip of the sword suddenly lit up.
From the tip to the blade and finally to the hilt, the entire sword instantly lit up.
Then, an ethereal white-haired old man floated out from the sword. San Qing above. The purple-clothed man's expression became dignified. His sword was no longer purple, but an ancient green color. His sword stabbed towards the bald man. This sword was like a high mountain and flowing water, like a white horse galloping through a crack, causing the bald man to be unable to see through it. However, at the critical moment, he opened his right hand, sucked the beautiful woman over, and then used her to block in front of him. Not good. The purple-clothed man clearly didn't expect the bald man to use this move. He die. Seeing that the purple-clothed man didn't dare to use his sword, the bald man controlled the blood wave with both hands and slammed it forward. Puff. The purple-clothed man was immediately injured, and it wasn't light. Despicable. He wanted to stand up, but his bones were injured, so it was impossible. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being too perverted. Since you wanted to kill me, why did you hold back? You should know that if you held back, I would have killed many more innocent girls. So, you're being too soft-hearted.
The bald man pushed the beautiful woman away and said with a laugh, I see that the sword on your body is extraordinary.
You should have some background. Moreover, you are so young, but your strength is so strong. I think you must have a lot of treasures on you. Ha ha ha. He laughed as he walked towards the purple-clothed man. He looked at the people around the inn and said, Who dares to save the beauty? Come, if you don't, then you're trash. The surrounding cultivators had already hidden hundreds of meters away. Hearing those arrogant words, some people didn't want to accept it, but they were stopped by others. After all, even someone as strong as the purple mist swordsman was defeated. If they went up, it would be tantamount to suicide. Let him go, or don't blame me for being merciless. Just as the bald man grabbed the purple-clothed man, a faint sneer suddenly sounded. Hee, looks like there's a knife above the word lust. Many people know about it, but many people can't see through it. The bald man suddenly sneered and slowly turned around. However, with just one glance, he was immediately stunned. Chapter 3494. Celestial sects. The surrounding people were also stunned. Because suddenly, a man in a large cloak had appeared behind the beautiful woman. He stretched out his hand, and his thumb and index finger were lightly holding the woman's neck. It seemed as if he would kill her if she moved even a little. But fucking hell, that woman was a hostage. Everyone thought that this guy had gone crazy and couldn't figure out the truth. Are you stupid? If you catch her, do you think I'll listen to you? I can catch as many little girls like her as I want. If you have the ability, then kill her. The bald man couldn't help but laugh as he spoke leisurely. However, just as he finished speaking, the mysterious man actually used force, causing the girl to have difficulty breathing. This made everyone even more confused. By now, They felt that the bald man was good and the mysterious man was bad. Interesting. Fine, fine, fine. I'll let him go. Kid, if you have the guts, tell me your name. At this moment, the bald man nodded slightly as if he didn't care at all. Let him go first. If you want to catch up, I'll accompany you later.
That mysterious person said in a carefree manner.
Seeing this, the bald man had no choice but to release the purple-clothed man. The purple-clothed man stroked his chest and walked towards the mysterious man. His eyes were filled with gratitude. That's more like it. By the way, didn't you ask for my name earlier? My name is Justice.
Seeing that the purple-clothed man was released, the mysterious man said slowly,
Justice? I'll uphold justice for your entire family.
At this moment, even the purple-clothed man hid his gratitude and revealed a slightly disdainful gaze, let alone the other onlookers.
Because would true justice kidnap a weak girl to blackmail her?
The bald man was still quite manly.
In the end, he couldn't bear to see the girl being killed and personally released her. Speaking of justice, the bald man seemed to be more like it. Senior, this seems a little shameless. The purple-clothed man finally couldn't bear it any longer and grumbled. You're just a child. You're inexperienced. Naturally, you don't know what's going on.
However, the mysterious man looked at him with disdain.
Ah! The purple-clothed man walked very close to the mysterious man.
Through the brim of his hat, he could see that the mysterious man seemed to be younger than him.
I see that you're not convinced. Since that's the case, you'd better pay attention. However, this time around, he sent a voice transmission to the purple-clothed man. The purple-clothed man nodded.
As soon as he finished speaking, the mysterious man released the beautiful woman.
Then he smiled faintly and said, All right, we've reconciled. You want your people, and I want mine. Since we've hit it off, let's mind our own business. After he finished speaking, he walked out of the tavern in large strides. This caused everyone to be extremely suspicious. However, after the bald man saved the beautiful woman, they looked at each other, and a huge black and red aura instantly erupted. The entire inn instantly cracked open, and a strange monster appeared. The lower half of the monster was a scorpion, but there was a snake above the scorpion. It was a pitch-black snake. What? Are they together? At this moment, the purple-clothed man finally came to his senses. Previously, he had obviously been deceived. Damn it, this also meant that he had been injured for nothing. Kid, I don't know where you came from, but since you dared to ruin my plans, I'll make sure you stay here forever. The scorpion monster spoke in human language. Kid, originally, we didn't want to reveal our identities so quickly. It's all your fault. But since you've exposed our identities, you'll have to bear our wrath. The black snake also spoke in human language, but it was a female voice. Next, the strange scorpion monster stirred up a storm of blood and charged toward the mysterious man. How terrifying! The surrounding people could sense the monster's power, and their faces turned pale with fright. Big brother, be careful. As for the purple-clothed man, he also shouted anxiously. However, he was seriously injured. He wanted to help, but there was nothing he could do. His eyes immediately became more anxious because the mysterious man was targeted by the monster because he was trying to save him. At this moment, the mysterious man finally took off his cloak, revealing a handsome face. He smiled slightly, and then before the huge monster arrived, he kicked it out. Rumble! This kick was so terrifying that the huge monster was kicked into two halves. Its internal organs spilled all over the ground, and smelly blood was everywhere. The surrounding people were all dumbfounded. One kick. However, the monster that was a combination of scorpion and poisonous snake was kicked to death. This was too fucking awesome. Finally, I found some world's will. However, the mysterious man ignored everyone's surprise. Instead, he was looking for something in the dirty corpse. After a moment, his face finally lit up. And he was Lin Ling. Speaking of which, if it wasn't for the purple-clothed man, Lin Ling would have needed a lot of effort to find this person from the world's will. Therefore, after Lin Ling put away the things he found in the corpse, he looked up at the purple-clothed man and smiled. Previously, he found some world's will in the corpse, which made the milk-colored stone have an additional layer of darkness. It was said that if the stone was completely black, it could take away the world's will. Although Lin Ling didn't understand why it was like this, His task was to bring the world's will, that's all. Senior, could it be that you're a celestial immortal? The purple-clothed man was stunned for a moment, and then suddenly knelt down. Lin Ling shook his head speechlessly. What celestial immortal? Last month, I also saw a celestial immortal as powerful as you in the Xiannan mountain, so I guess that you must be a celestial immortal. The purple-clothed man said again. This made Lin Ling curious, and he asked, what kind of celestial immortal are you talking about? Because if it was a celestial immortal, it would be a powerhouse from the final world, and it might be a competitor. It's a celestial immortal sect called Immortal Temple. The purple-clothed man immediately said, which made Lin Ling's pupils constrict. Immortal Temple? 9 states 10 evils? He quickly asked, how can you be sure? Also, did you see a very beautiful woman? Because they just came here and needed a guide, so they asked people from our sect to help. After talking, we found out that they are called Immortal Temple. As for the woman, there is indeed one. This is she's simply a fairy. It's also the first time I've seen such a beautiful woman in my life. The purple-clothed man said one after another. Hearing this, Lin Ling became more and more excited. Could it be that senior sister Yu also came here? Moreover, she was from Immortal Temple. What was she doing here? Could it be that she was related to the world's will? Or, was she also a trial taker of God? For a moment, Lin Ling was somewhat suspicious, but he knew that only when he saw Yuer, all of this would be revealed. Chapter 3495. The Battle of the Puddle. Thank you, Senior Justice. All right, I have something to do, so I'll leave first. After asking the purple-robed man for directions, Lin Ling rushed over without stopping. Moreover, since the Immortal Temple had arrived here before them, they might have found the world's will first. As he moved forward, Lin Ling gradually discovered that more and more experts appeared along the way. These experts were stronger than the warriors of this world. According to logic, they shouldn't be from this world. Sir, why are you here? Under the ancient green mountain, when Lin Ling was about to hurry on his way, a powerhouse immediately stopped him. Is this your home? Do I need your permission to go anywhere? Lin Ling looked at this group of people indifferently, as if he wanted to see something from them. At this moment, without waiting for Lin Ling to say anything, those people had already rushed over. Their bodies emitted a black light, causing their strength to increase by several times in an instant. Unfortunately, this strength was very strong in the literati star, but it was useless in front of Lin Ling, who came from the final world. Whoosh! The tyrannical song sword immediately appeared in Lin Ling's hand. He slashed with the sword and killed the person in front of him. The remaining people's expressions changed, but they didn't run away. They still tried to find an opportunity to give Lin Ling a fatal blow. Unfortunately, they were still killed by Lin Ling with a single slash. After dealing with these people, Lin Ling continued to move forward, but more and more experts appeared along the way. Moreover, these experts all had a similar characteristic, and that was the black light on their bodies. This made Lin Ling guess that these people might be related to the world's will. No wonder these people were so strong. Rumble! Not long after, deafening sounds came from the front, as if some fierce battle was happening. Lin Ling couldn't help but look over with his 10,000 elephant magic eyes and immediately discovered that there was a huge puddle in front of him. A large number of experts swam out from the bottom of the water and then collided with the surrounding experts. Looking at the surrounding experts, one of them was from the Immortal Temple. Because of the characteristics of the Immortal Temple, all of them were monks. Lin Ling also instantly became excited. He stopped and looked into the distance. He saw that among the countless old monks, a woman in a white dress was standing there quietly. She was holding a green sword in her hand, like a fairy. Lin Ling's eyes were moist. Yuer. Since Qing province disappeared, senior Yuer editor. Dark God, Dark God, Dark God, Dark Godler. Now he had almost traveled the entire 9 provinces, and finally, he saw Yuer again. At that moment, Lin Ling felt like he had returned to the time when he was in the Gu Yen sect. At that time, he was still a weak young man, and his senior sister had helped him. His senior sister was also the first person who had helped him since Lin Ling had arrived in this world. Senior sister Yu has reached the martial progenitor realm. Suppressing the shock in his heart, Lin Ling checked with his 10,000 elephant magic eyes, and was shocked again. The martial progenitor realm was an expert who had accumulated countless cultivation resources. However, in the immortal temple, an Yuer had reached the martial progenitor realm faster than Lin Ling. This also showed how important an Yuer was to the immortal temple. Furthermore, the situation doesn't seem right. Lin Ling's gaze once again landed on the huge puddle. He discovered that a huge whirlpool had appeared in the puddle, and there seemed to be a strange force at the bottom of the whirlpool. Furthermore, that miraculous power actually gave off a feeling of life and intelligence. Could this be the will of the world that he was looking for? Lin Ling's eyes finally lit up, and he immediately took out the milk-colored stone from his chest. He immediately discovered that the black force in the stone was gathering in the direction of the puddle. This meant that the will of the world that Lei Gong was looking for was indeed in the puddle. However, how was he going to collect the will of the world? Could it be that he was relying on the stone in his hand? Lin Ling kept guessing, and he looked around the puddle. He discovered that other than the immortal temple, there were also experts from other forces. These experts were not only fighting against the people who had rushed out of the puddle, but they were also occasionally fighting with each other. It was obvious that their target was the will of the world. So many people are trying to seize the will of the world? Could they all be trial takers? Lin Ling could not help but feel suspicious. He even guessed that an Yuer could be a trial taker. However, an Yuer was one of the 9 states' 10 evils, and it was unlikely that she was a deity's subordinate. Regardless, I should observe the situation before taking action. Lin Ling did not plan to do anything for the time being, and he chose to observe. While he was observing, the experts who had walked out of the puddle were getting stronger and stronger. There were existences comparable to the late-stage martial ancestor realm. These people were no different from martial ancestor realm experts, but they were proficient in using power, and seemed to be innately stronger than Jie Yuan. Moreover, they all had spiritual intelligence, and were even very clear-headed. However, they still prevented everyone from approaching the puddle. This made Lin Ling guess that these people had been invaded by the will of the world. Although they did not lose their spiritual intelligence, their mentality had changed. On the other side, the Immortal Temple and another unknown organization were fighting against the experts who had walked out of the puddle. Of course, they would occasionally fight with each other. The strongest of the Immortal Temple was a late-stage martial ancestor realm Elder Xian, and the unknown organization was a tall and sturdy middle-aged man. Although this middle-aged man's realm was lower, his talent was stronger, so his strength was roughly the same as that Elder Xian. Looking at the experts below them, the Immortal Temple was an Yuer, and the other side was a man and a woman. Lin Ling did not recognize the man, but the woman. Lin Ling's pupils immediately trembled. It was Longyang. Why did he meet this woman everywhere? Moreover, every time she appeared, the place she appeared in was extremely extraordinary. Logically speaking, she should not be qualified to come in contact with so many people. Lin Ling's wariness towards Dragon Mother involuntarily increased by another notch. This was because he, Lin Ling, was constantly becoming stronger, but so was Longyang. They were walking on the same path in the same world. If Lin Ling slowed down one day, Longyang would definitely surpass him. Based on the hatred between the two of them, the one who would be killed at that time would be Lin Ling. It's a pity that the man beside Longyang is very strong. Otherwise, this would be an excellent opportunity. Then, Lin Ling secretly shook his head. At this moment, Longyang and Yuer clearly had their eyes on the power in the puddle. However, for some reason, they did not dare to rush down rashly. Moreover, they did not want to give up easily. Therefore, they could only continue to fight at the edge of the puddle. Haha, Yuer, it's been a long time. After the two sides fought for a while, Longyang suddenly stopped and said with a smile. On the other side, Yuer's expression was ice cold, and she ignored him. Where's your lover? Has he forgotten about you? Haha, your little lover is really amazing. He's a famous figure in the 9 prefectures, one of the 4th leaders of the God-slaying alliance, and he knows a few of the 9 prefectures' 10 evils. I heard that he went to the final world. He's a heartless man. That's why I said that you can't trust men. Chapter 3496. The First Sage Realm from 10,000 years ago. This was because Yu was far too powerful. She possessed 6 great god eyes, and that was not all. She was also a martial ancestor. Moreover, she had a hidden power within her. Thus, She had no chance of defeating him in a clash of strength. Moreover, Xueqi's opponent was powerful. Her opponent was the former first sage, Gang Ho, who was also known as the first sage in the 9 regions. Although this general term was from a very long time ago, it was enough to show his strength. Although this person was at the peak of the saint stage, he was able to fight on par with Xueqi and was not at a disadvantage at all. On the other side, Lin Ling wanted to help. However, after hearing Longyang's words, he stopped and looked at Xueqi carefully. Unfortunately, he could not see any emotion on Xueqi's face. It was as if Xueqi did not know Lin Ling at all. This made Lin Ling frown. When he was chased by the 5th demon elder at the Heavenly King Mountain of the Yen province, it was senior sister Xueqi who came to save him. How could she not remember him? In fact, even Longyang frowned. She did not expect Xueqi to be so unaffected. She thought for a while and said, Lin Ling has gone to Snow City in the final world. In the final world, sometimes strength is not everything. Having a background is the most important thing. Obviously, Lin Ling does not have any background. Therefore, I saw him offending a duke's son in Snow City. Although it happened a long time ago, I think that guy has been skinned even if he is not dead. As soon as he said this, Xueqi, who was originally as pure as ice and as pure as jade, finally had a flicker in her eyes. This flicker was not suitable in a battle between experts. As long as the opponent was not much weaker than you could seize this weakness and attack it. Gang Ho snorted and stretched his giant hand behind him. The wind and clouds in the sky rolled. One finger reverses the universe. A giant finger suppressed Xueqi with 30% of the ancestral power. Moreover, Gong Shou's innate talent was quite strange. She was a white-robed witch with a white horsetail whisk in her hand. She kept swinging it back and forth as if it was providing a magical power to Gang Ho. That giant finger was naturally blocked by Xueqi's divine punishment god's eyes. 2 fingers moves the world. However, the second finger immediately arrived, and before the first finger had even finished, the second finger had already followed up. Now, Xueqi's pressure, unless she wanted to use that sealed power. Saintess! The elder from the immortal temple in the distance suddenly shouted anxiously. Was to warn Xueqi or Xueqi not to be careful. Or Xueqi not. However, Xueqi didn't seem to have much choice now. Heh, you're a tall and strong man, yet you're bullying a girl. Do you still have any shame? At this moment, Lin Ling finally appeared. How could he watch someone bully his wife? Especially when he saw Xueqi being affected because she was worried about him, he felt extremely touched. Therefore, he instantly appeared in front of Xueqi. He stretched out his right hand and his entire arm became pitch black, as if it was made of black steel. Moreover, it quietly turned into a dragon claw. Boom! Then, Lin Ling clawed out. Rumble! The two collided and the impact swept out in all directions. Gang Ho was immediately sent flying. When he stopped, he immediately looked in front of him in disbelief. In front of him, a mysterious person wearing a large black cloak appeared. However, his arm was very long and pitch black. It was extremely strange. What was the background of this ferocious person? Even Longyang frowned and cursed secretly. She had almost forced Xueqi into a difficult situation before, but this person suddenly came out to cause trouble and ruined her plans. As for Xueqi, her expression remained unchanged. She even looked at Lin Ling's back without any gratitude. Lin Ling didn't care about this. The reason why he wore a cloak was not to bring any surprises. Instead, he wanted Xueqi to remember him forever when he took off the cloak. In the past, he had the opportunity to bring Xueqi back, but he failed in the end. This caused him to feel guilty toward Yu and the others. This was also a knot in Lin Ling's heart. Lin Ling knew the reasons for his failure. First, he wasn't strong enough. Second, Xueqi had lost her memory. Therefore, Lin Ling really cared about whether Xueqi had recovered her memory or not. Who the hell are you? After Gang Ho steadied himself, he immediately asked in a low voice. I should be the one asking you this question. You don't look like a martial ancestor, but your combat strength is not bad. This strength is worthy of praise. Lin Ling looked at Gang Ho and said calmly. Through the previous collision, he immediately knew that Gong Shou's strength was not simple. His talent was probably in the 5th grade. I'm Gang Ho, the #1 sage in the 9 provinces 10,000 years ago. Ignorant kid. Have you heard of my name? Gang Ho said proudly when he saw Lin Ling's unconcerned tone. The #1 sage in the 9 provinces 10,000 years ago. Lin Ling's eyes immediately flickered. No wonder he was so powerful. It turned out that he was indeed famous. However, he quickly smiled and said, Senior, the #1 sage in the 9 provinces 10,000 years ago. I don't know how impressive you were back then. However, 10,000 years have passed and you're still in the sage realm? This senior? No, brother. Don't tell me you think the sage realm is the limit of the martial path? Or do you think you're wasting your time cultivating? You haven't made any progress for 10,000 years. His voice was filled with mockery, causing Xueqi to be startled. It was the first time she looked at Lin Ling with a strange expression. She did not expect this mysterious man to provoke Gang Ho. Long Yang, on the other hand, was dumbfounded. Is that guy crazy? Even though the leader had been eliminated, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. This was not something that a junior like him could say. Moreover, this junior did not seem to be a martial ancestor expert. The gang leader was stunned. His face gradually turned from majestic to ashen, and finally, red. It was obvious that this was his scar, but someone insisted on exposing it. Are you angry from embarrassment? No wonder you haven't made any progress in the past 10,000 years. It turns out that you can't be criticized. Unfortunately, in the martial path, if you can't face your own flaws and avoid talking about them, you'll be stuck in the sage realm for the rest of your life. Therefore, I can see that you'll still be in the sage realm in another 10,000 years. However, Lin Ling seemed to be unaware of Gong Shou's anger and said to himself, one finger imprisoning heaven and earth. Chapter 3497. Translator, Audiobook Studio Editor. Audiobook Studio I can't remember. Seeing this, Lin Ling's eyes flashed. Although Gang Ho was only in the sage realm, he had been in the sage realm for 10,000 years. His foundation was extremely deep, and this was also a powerful asset. Looking up at the blood-red finger, Lin Ling used the realm-swallowing beast's talent and dominating song sword. He tried his best to activate 30% of his ancestor's power and slash toward the sky. Clang! The sound of metal colliding was heard. The moment the sword and the bloody finger collided, countless golden stars shot out. The sound had the power to shatter one's soul. However, the bloody finger was blocked by Lin Ling's sword. At this moment, Longyang and Xueqi's expressions changed. They never expected this mysterious person to be so strong. Looking at Lin Ling's sword, both of them felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. One finger seals life and death. Gang Ho roared again, causing the giant finger to turn golden. Seeing this, Lin Ling did not dare to be arrogant. After all, Gang Ho was the first sage realm 10,000 years ago. Although he was an outdated figure, looking at the current JoJo, who would dare to say that he was the first sage realm expert? Therefore, this showed how extraordinary Gong Shou's strength was. Unfortunately, although Gang Ho dominated an era, he could not follow the era. He could not escape the truth of being eliminated. This was also the Yangtze River's new generation surpassing the old. And Lin Ling was the wave that came after. This time, Lin Ling also activated the double dragon talent and integrated it into his talent. His strength reached 6,000 realms, and his speed reached 600 realms. His integrated talent reached the 4th grade. In a situation where no one could see through, he reached the sky above the golden finger in the sky. His claws pierced into it, and then domineeringly tore the golden finger into pieces. The whole process was simple and violent, but also domineering and magnificent. Longyang, who was far away, covered her mouth with her small hand. She was completely shocked by this scene. How could someone be so strong? Was this a dream? Moreover, from the monster, there seemed to be a familiar smell. Yes, it was the Dragon Clan. What? As for Steel Hand, he did not believe that his attack had been destroyed in such a straightforward manner. After all, he was the #1 sage. You're old. At the same time, the monster in the sky moved its eyebrows, and an ancient stone tablet fell from the sky, directly suppressing the hand to the ground, unable to move. In the past 10,000 years, because you believed in the rules, you completely gave up on yourself. So you used all your time to improve your strength and completely gave up on improving your realm. How pitiful! Although the improvement of the realm is sometimes the least important to an expert,
The realm of a warrior determines the upper limit. Moreover, no matter how powerful the martial god was in the past, he couldn't avoid going through some realms of the martial way. This is the principle that the world will never change. But you didn't go through it. How can you be strong? Lin Ling looked down at the Gangsho on the ground and said. He shook his head in disdain. If it were me, I wouldn't believe it. No wonder you could only dominate 10,000 years ago. Shut up. On the ground, the Gangsho finally roared. How do you know that I didn't try to break through? You don't know anything. You only know how to judge people from a high point of view. You're just that kind of person. Look at you, you're really not convinced. Hearing this, Lin Ling laughed. It was a sarcastic and disdainful smile. Then let me ask you, how many years have you tried to break through? 100 years? 200 years? 300 years? 1,000 years? 2,000 years? 3,000 years? The Gangsho could not refute Lin Ling's question. He had only tried for 1,000 years. After 1,000 years of cultivation, he had no effect, so he completely gave up. If I were you, I would still try at this moment. Seeing that the Gangsho stopped talking, Lin Ling said lightly, and then returned to his original appearance. The Gangsho's heart was roaring. He did not expect that Lin Ling would try for 10,000 years just to break a legend. This legend had been verified by countless predecessors, and it could be confirmed that there was no hope of breaking through. Perhaps, this was the gap between him and Lin Ling. Senior sister you are. Ignoring the Gangsho, Lin Ling slowly looked at An'Yuer. An'Yuer had been looking at Lin Ling before, but when Lin Ling looked at her, she had already restrained the complicated expression on her face. However, she did not expect to meet this man again. This man who had once been stabbed by her sword but had never blamed her. Towards this man, she only had an indescribable feeling. Although, she did not have any impression of this man. However, there was always a voice in her heart telling her that even if she forgot the blooming and falling leaves, even if she forgot the night wind and the quiet moon, even if she forgot time and heaven and earth, she could not forget him. It was precisely because of this sentence that she had a special feeling for this man. At this moment, when Lin Ling saw An'Yuer's expressionless face, he felt an inexplicable pain in his heart. Why didn't senior sister Yu recognize him? But when Longyang talked about him, senior sister Yu was really worried. And when the fifth demon elder was chasing after him, if she didn't care about him, she wouldn't have stopped him with her life. I just owe you a favor, so I want to return it to you. That's all. The two looked at each other for a long time, and An'Yuer finally said indifferently. This made Lin Ling angry. He looked for An'Yuer everywhere, not because he wanted to hear this from An'Yuer. Moreover, Yu and the others did not want to hear this either. They wanted An'Yuer to go home. You're talking nonsense. Lin Ling rushed towards An'Yuer like a madman, which made Longyang frown in the distance. According to her understanding of Lin Ling was a devil who would do anything to achieve his goal. Moreover, he did things without principle and killed people like flies. But it was undeniable that Lin Ling was very stubborn when it came to feelings. Because last time, An'Yuer stabbed Lin Ling with her sword, she was also present at that time. And now, she was there again, as if God had arranged for her to be a witness. How dare you! However, just as Lin Ling was about to approach An'Yuer, an angry roar sounded. Then, a huge swastika fell from the sky, carrying 90% of the ancestral power. It sealed Lin Ling's body and suppressed him from the sky. And the one who attacked was really that elder from the immortal temple. With Lin Ling's current strength, how could he be a match for that elder? He was immediately suppressed and fell towards the pool of water. This scene made the expressions of Longyang and the others change drastically. Because there was a restriction in the pool of water, they didn't dare to approach it. Moreover, the restriction hadn't disappeared, so if Lin Ling fell into it, wouldn't he die without a doubt? But at this moment, a beautiful figure floated past like white clothes that were whiter than snow. She actually followed Lin Ling into the pool of water. Saintess! Chapter 3498. The world will had invaded. But at this moment, the sacred swastika covered Lin Ling's body, pressing him into the water like a palm. By the time Lin Ling reacted, it was already too late. He could only hear the sound of the water around him, as if he had entered a wonderful world. The first thing he felt was that the boundary essence in his body seemed to be changing. For example, the boundary essence in his first dantian, the fire boundary essence, seemed to have something more. Lin Ling instantly guessed that those experts who had been changed by the will of the world were more than 10 times stronger than before. It turned out that their boundary essence was indeed different. And now, his first dantian's boundary essence was transforming. Did this mean that he was going to become a person of the world's will? How could this be? No, it was completely impossible. Lin Ling sneered in his heart. He had been practicing martial arts for so long. If he wanted to rely on illusions, bewitchment, and other methods to change himself, it was simply impossible. However, at this moment, an ancient voice resounded in Lin Ling's ears. The world was flawless. He saw a beautiful world. Birds chirped, flowers bloomed, and peach blossoms bloomed. It was like a pure land. There were a large number of cute animals here. It was isolated from the rest of the world, and people would not be shocked by it. It made the whole world full of vitality. But gradually, humans began to be born. In the beginning, they were like the animals, isolated from the world. But as time passed, perhaps because of their confidence or ambition, they did not want to be one of them. They wanted to dominate. Therefore, they took action and began to dominate the world. In the end, the entire world was dominated by humans. Of course, the world was still beautiful after being dominated by humans. It was just that there was an additional distinction between nobility and lowliness. However, a person's heart would never be satisfied. Humans began to kill each other. They fought for the throne, fought for benefits, fought for everything. As time passed, humans began to practice martial arts. From ancient ruins, they learned some of the great Tao of heaven and earth, causing the entire world to have a brief moment of peace. However, this good time didn't last long. For treasures, for cultivation methods, for inheritances, for dignity, the war began once again. Endless slaughter and battle. After a certain period of time, this kind of battle would end, but after a certain period of time, this kind of battle would start. That was originally a beautiful and pure new world. However, under the ambitions of various powerful species, it was riddled with scars and turned into the 9 provinces. Each province was then divided into fragments and turned into a myriad of worlds. However, those powerful species and humans did not care about him at all. They only wanted to become stronger. Of course, there were also many kind-hearted humans. However, their kindness was mostly seen from the perspective of their own kind. They did not care about other races at all. Most importantly, these powerful species, regardless of whether they were humans or something else, seemed to have an endless battle. Therefore, the will hidden in this beautiful world had finally decided to purify the world. A long time ago, this world had been purified by that wisp of will, and most of the powerful species had died. In the end, that wisp of will disappeared again, hiding in the depths of this beautiful world, continuing to shoulder the mission of protecting the world. But now, world cleansing was about to begin again. All of this seemed to take a long time, but in reality, it was like a mysterious light that was instantly imprinted in Lin Ling's heart, allowing him to understand everything. Especially human greed, slaughter, betrayal, abandonment, and so on. This made Lin Ling's heart turn gloomy. Speaking of slaughter, he himself was also someone who had endless slaughter. But in the past, he did not care at all. He only cared about the people around him. However, after falling into the pool, he felt a sense of guilt for the first time. His eyes also began to turn black. It looks like this Lin Ling is about to become the world's will. And after he changes, I'm afraid none of us here can stop him. Yes, before we fought the strongest in the pool. They were only the strongest in this world. After being changed by the world's will, their strength increased by more than 100 times. If it's him, not to mention 100 times, even if his strength increased by 10 times, none of us would be a match for him. Then can we take action and bring him up? This is beneficial to all of us. It's useless. Look, his boundary essence has begun to change. Right now, I'm afraid he's already the world's will. The experts by the pool all frowned and said, their expressions extremely solemn. Everything was as they said. Not only could the world's will change a person's will and thoughts, but it could also change a person's boundary essence. Only after both were successfully changed could one become the world's will. However, the experts by the pool did not know that Lin Ling had 5 dantians. So, if he wanted to change his boundary essence, it would take a long time. On the contrary, when Lin Ling's will and thoughts wavered, he immediately sensed a fragrant wind blowing over. Then, the swastika on his body was removed. A familiar figure appeared. Her clothes were whiter than snow, and her temperament was like ice. It was Xueqi. However, at this moment, her eyes were filled with worry, and it was revealed without any disguise. The moment he saw her, Lin Ling's previously shaken thoughts were instantly blown away as if they had been blown away by a storm. Yes, humans were selfish, but humans also had love. The worlds will had observed humans, deities, ghosts, and demons for countless years. It thought that it understood them very well, so it planned to purify the world. However, it was only observing. It could not understand the kind of love between humans, the kind of sacrifice for others. Just like now, Xueqi clearly said that she did not recognize him, but when she saw that he was in danger, she was the first and only person to rush over. This was enough to prove everything. Lin Ling's eyes gradually regained clarity. "Are you okay?" Xueqi saw that Lin Ling's eyes had recovered instantly, and she could not help but ask in surprise. "What do you think?" Lin Ling smiled excitedly. Before Xueqi could react, he pulled Xueqi into his arms. He hugged Xueqi tightly, as if he was afraid that she would run away. "In this life, I won't let you leave again. This is my promise." After hugging Xueqi tightly, Lin Ling said word by word. Xueqi's body trembled, and her heart was beating wildly. Previously, when she saw Lin Ling being attacked by the elders and falling into the pool, she did not even think about it. Who knew that Lin Ling would be fine, and this guy actually took advantage of her. However, when she wanted to resist, her heart rejected it. Especially those dignified words, as well as that masculine voice, made her suddenly like this feeling very much. Chapter 3499. Divine Bodyguard Mansion. Be careful. Being hugged by Lin Ling, Xueqi did not resist, but looked at the depths of the puddle and said, "It's fine, the will of the world can't change me, so you can only submit to me." Lin Ling shook his head indifferently, then looked deeply at Xueqi, and told her about the yearning of Yu and the others. Xueqi listened quietly, her heart was moved, and even the memories she lost suddenly became very important. She wanted to know the bits and pieces of the past with Lin Ling, and also wanted to know the bits and pieces of the past with Yu and the others. Not good, Lin Ling look. However, she immediately reminded him again, because the two of them were getting closer and closer to the bottom of the puddle. Seeing this, Lin Ling smiled, stretched out his right hand, and a milk-colored stone appeared, and gently patted the bottom of the puddle. With this pat, a sudden change occurred. The entire puddle rolled even more violently, as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. Even the surroundings of the puddle were filled with terrifying astral winds. The expression of the immortal temple elder, Longyang, and the other experts changed drastically. Could it be that he is also a trial taker? On the ground, Gang Shou was stunned, and could not help but shout angrily. At the same time, Longyang's face was ashen. The two of them did not expect that Lin Ling seemed to be looking for Xueqi, but in fact, his real goal was the will of the world. What a good diversion, they were all fooled. If they knew that Lin Ling came for the will of the world, they would not have let Lin Ling get close to the center of the puddle. Especially the immortal temple elder, he had already started to retreat, but at the same time, he was also extremely vexed. Because Lin Ling was pushed down by him, he thought that Lin Ling would definitely die, but who knew that not only was Lin Ling fine, but he was also a trial taker, and could subdue this part of the will of the world. There was only one goal for all of them to gather here, and that was the will of the world. But in the end, they did not get anything. Boom! The previous puddle had exploded with a terrifying shockwave. The power of the will of the world was able to push the power of a wisp of wind into a grade 10 gale. Therefore, the entire literati star immediately broke apart into pieces that floated in the void. At this moment, two figures rushed out from another direction. They were Lin Ling and Xueqi. Lin Ling looked at literati star behind him and sighed. Then, he led Xueqi forward again. As for Xueqi, she let Lin Ling hold her hand. Her face was a little red, but she didn't say anything for a while. After a long time, Xueqi finally spoke. "Lin Ling, I'm very sorry, but I still have to go back." "What?" Lin Ling's body trembled. He stopped in his tracks and turned around to look at Xueqi seriously. And Yuera lowered her head slightly and said, "Because, actually, I didn't find your memories. I just have a very, very familiar feeling towards you, so I have always treated you as one of us. It's okay, as long as we are together, that memory will be found sooner or later." "All right." Lin Ling immediately smiled and waved his hand. "But I can't do it. I feel that it is unfair to you to be with you based on my feelings. So, if I really want to go back, I want to go back as the real Yuera, not as the Holy Maiden." "All right." And Yuera took a step forward and suddenly tapped Lin Ling's cheek gently, which made Lin Ling stunned. "In fact, you should know that even if I didn't find my memories, I have already treated you as my man." "All right." And Yuera's voice was extremely soft when she said the last sentence. Lin Ling was stunned again. He stared at Yuera, who lowered her head and blushed. He finally smiled and said, "I understand, everyone has their own things to do. I can't tie you to my side just because you are my wife. Don't worry, we will wait for you." "Okay." "Okay." And Yuera nodded gratefully. After looking deeply at Lin Ling, she finally left reluctantly. At the moment she left, she realized how uncomfortable she felt after leaving this man. However, this made her want to know what her lost memories were even more. Because they were definitely very important. No matter what, she was sure that she was Lin Ling's wife in the past. Looking at Yuera leaving, Lin Ling's eyes were also filled with reluctance. However, this time, it was as if a huge stone had been lifted from his heart. Although he still didn't bring Yuera back this time, in fact, he had succeeded. Moreover, he had also obtained the will of the world. This trip was a great success. Lin Ling continued to fly forward, but he also took out the milk-colored stone in his hand. However, the stone was now pitch black, and it didn't have the terrifying feeling that he had imagined. The will of the world sealed in the stone reacted very calmly. "You brat, other than brainwashing, what else can you do?" Lin Ling was disdainful of the will of the world. Purify the world? What a boring action. Moreover, he sensed that the will of the world seemed to be for the beautiful new world, but in fact, it was using its powerful strength to bewitch others. In the end, they were controlled by the will of the world. Therefore, as long as someone had ambition, they would be easily controlled. He no longer paid attention to the will of the world. Not long after, a large group of people appeared in front of him. This group of people was well equipped and walked in the void of the universe. Moreover, there were countless experts, and their aura was extraordinary. When he saw the large group of people, Lin Ling was stunned for a moment. Finally, his gaze fell on the silk banner of the group of people. Bodyguards. Bodyguards of bodyguards? Lin Ling muttered to himself. He suddenly stopped in his tracks and looked at the departing group with ill intentions. Bodyguards of bodyguards of bodyguards. During the great battle of the Yen province, this force had come together with the Flame Emperor to capture him. Later on, when Duan Yi of the Duan family came to capture him, they had participated in this matter. Speaking of which, Lin Ling had never provoked them. The grudges of the pugilistic world have always been like this. If you give me a knife, I will return the favor. However, the bodyguards of bodyguards of bodyguards have already slashed me several times. I, Lin Ling, should return the favor. Lin Ling's gaze turned even colder. For the time being, he did not plan to return to the final world. Instead, he headed in the direction of the group of people. The group of bodyguards was heading in the direction of the Horseshoe Realm. When Lin Ling was about to land on the ground, he immediately heard waves of angry curses. Bodyguards of bodyguards of bodyguards, you will die a horrible death. God damn it! Why do you have to kill people every time? Why do you have to kill people every time? Father, mother. Lin Ling looked over and saw that the group of bodyguards had satisfied and enjoyable expressions. A large number of people were kneeling in front of them. They were probably from the Horseshoe Realm. At this moment, some of them were begging for mercy, while others were looking at the group of bodyguards with resentment. Obviously, this was not the first time something like this had happened. Chapter 3500. Lin Ling Lin Ling. Lin Ling. Moreover, this place couldn't even be considered as the 9 prefectures. It was merely a small realm in the eastern border. Hee hee, even escorts are divided into good and evil. Cold laughter rang out, causing Lin Ling's expression to change.
He immediately rushed down, but it was already too late.
He saw the weapons in the hands of those escorts, be it sabers or spears, but those weapons were all stained with blood.
Looking at the ground, he saw more than 10 lives lying on the ground. Some had been severed at the waist, some had their heads chopped off, and some had their limbs severed. Some of them were in their prime, some were elderly, and some were children. After seeing this scene, Lin Ling's eyes instantly turned red. Because he could clearly see that this group of people didn't know any martial arts, while the godly escort family was one of the most powerful forces in the 9 states. How could the godly escort family do something like this? His gaze quietly shifted to the group of people from the godly escort mansion. However, they didn't seem to notice Lin Ling at all. Instead, one of them was attacking the 6-year-old girl. He stepped on her body and raised his butcher's knife up high.
With a loud laugh, he was about to behead the little girl.
At this moment, Lin Ling roared in his heart. Bang! He disappeared on the spot and reappeared behind the expert. He punched out, and the expert froze in place.
The butcher knife in his hand was already raised, but it seemed like he would never have the chance to slash down.
That was because in everyone's eyes, that person had gone limp like mud. To be able to beat a powerhouse into a pulp, it meant that the punch had directly shattered all the powerhouse's bones. At this moment, everyone looked at Lin Ling. Who are you? How dare you kill people from the godly bodyguard mansion? Some people immediately looked at Lin Ling angrily, and their bodies also emitted a terrifying killing intent.
Just as he finished speaking, a trembling voice came from beside him. He seems to be Lin Ling.
The first person obviously didn't react and shouted angrily. What do you mean by your Lin, my Lin? I don't care which Lin he is. If I don't kill him today, how can I vent my anger? After saying that, he finally stared at Lin Ling, but after a glance, he subconsciously took a step back. Lin Ling, Lin Ling. Obviously, he had recognized Lin Ling. Is that Lin Ling? Lin Ling. The others, whether they had seen Lin Ling's way, or not, they all took a step back, as if they had seen a demon. In the godly escort mansion, the name of the son of the devil, Lin Ling, was known to everyone. Run! Without Ling Xiu Xiu. Xiu Xiu Xiu. On the other hand, Lin Ling wore an icy expression as the aura of the dragon god burst out from his body. Following this, a 5-meter-long dragon bow appeared in his hand. With a flick of his arm, the roar of the dragon god could be heard, followed by the dragon god's arrow being fired. The sky was filled with flying dragon gods at an incredible speed, resulting in a dazzling scene. The people who were running away panicked, as they knew that they had no chance of stopping the arrows. They could only run for their lives, but gradually, they realized that it was impossible to escape. Bang bang bang. In just a few breaths' time, corpses fell from the sky as if it were raining. Their bodies were penetrated by the arrows, leaving them dead. Lin Ling frowned as he ignored the corpses on the ground. As a matter of fact, he had already planned to eliminate the Fei Long, Fu Xing, and the Go Dart Studio once he reached the martial progenitor realm. By then, he would have the strength to eliminate them. Even if his opponents were the formidable factions of the 9 continents, they would still be useless against him. This was because Lin Ling had Lei Gong as his backer. But now, he had changed his mind. He would eliminate the Go Dart Studio first. Firstly, the Go Dart Studio did not expect Lin Ling to eliminate them. Secondly, Lin Ling already had the strength to eliminate the Go Dart Studio. Of course, it was obviously impossible to eliminate them completely, but at least he could eliminate 70 to 80% of their main force, causing this hypocritical organization to collapse. Thank you, my lord, thank you. At this moment, the people around them kowtowed to Lin Ling. Get up. Lin Ling hurriedly helped them up, and then asked why the Go Dart Studio had attacked them. They have a branch here. As long as they complete their mission, they will return to this branch to rest. Because they are bored, they kill the people of the horseshoe world and even compete to see who can kill more. And not only do they kill people, but they also use the creatures, trees, mountains, and seas here for the competition. Anyway, every competition is a time of great disaster for the horseshoe world. Yes, this group of people is so powerful, but they are too ruthless. Everyone cursed out loud. They all knew that the Go Dart Studio was very powerful, but they still dared to curse. This also showed how ridiculous the Go Dart Studio was. Then your Realm Lord doesn't care? Lin Ling asked again. The Realm Lord died a long time ago,
and the new realm lord is the chief deacon of the Go Dart studio. At first we didn't know, so we asked the new realm lord for help. In the end, he broke our legs and hung us in the forest to death. Until now, no one dares to collect our corpses. An old man said while wiping his tears, because the one who died was his brother. And when it came to the sad part, everyone's eyes became moist. Lin Ling looked at them deeply. He had always thought that in a world where the strong were respected, the weak would be bullied, but there was a difference between the weak and the commoners. The commoners had not entered the world of martial arts, and they were even inferior to the weak, so nothing should implicate them. But now, he realized that for some crazy warriors, as long as they were weak, they were all the same. Thank you for saving our lives, sir. It's not good to stay here for a long time. Why don't you come to our tribe? The old man said again, causing everyone to look at Lin Ling expectantly. Lin Ling wanted to refuse, but he couldn't bear it, so he temporarily agreed. Following the crowd, Lin Ling roughly asked about the location of the Go Dart studio, and planned to go there at night to find out. Not long after, they arrived at the tribe. The tribe was very old, and Lin Ling felt sad when he saw it, because most of the young and strong people had died, leaving behind some old people and children. Lin Ling also quietly left behind some treasures. That night, he had dinner with them. After that they chatted for a while. Only when the sky darkened did Lin Ling leave a letter and quietly leave. According to the memory of the route during the day, Lin Ling went to the address of the Go Dart studio. The forest at night was quiet and silent. As he moved forward, stars gradually appeared in the dark ahead, as if he had arrived at a city. This city was somewhat lively, and he didn't know whether there were more people in the Go Dart studio, or there were warriors from other places. And outside the city, there was a dried corpse, which made Lin Ling know that this was the person who asked the Realm Lord for help, but in the end, his legs were broken and he was burned to death. Chapter 3501. Map of the Branch. Within the branch, teams of experts were patrolling. They weren't very strong, but Lin Ling didn't want to alert them unless he caught the deacon first. After all, as a deacon, he must have some tricks up his sleeve. Lin Ling wasn't afraid of him fighting. He was just afraid that he would run away. After sneaking into the branch, Lin Ling's soul force began to spread out and search through the houses. Finally, he found a short and fat middle-aged man in one of the houses. However, this middle-aged man was as fat as a ball. He was pressing on top of an 18 or 19-year-old girl and was excitedly thrusting. The girl was moaning in pleasure. Lin Ling's soul force swept through and he immediately knew that the middle-aged man was the deacon. Because the tribesman had roughly explained to him what the chief deacon looked like, Lin Ling was able to deduce a few things. Shaking his head, Lin Ling's body disappeared and reappeared in the room. However, what surprised Lin Ling was that the middle-aged man was too engrossed. He was actually still doing that kind of thing and didn't even notice that Lin Ling had entered. Being a dog every day, is it fun? Lin Ling had to interrupt the deacon. The moment his voice came out, the middle-aged man stopped his movements and his whole body quivered. He looked at Lin Ling with the help of the light and continued thrusting. At the same time he said, "Speak, who sent you?" This made Lin Ling stunned. He couldn't help but admire this guy's self-confidence. He didn't even consider his own safety and asked him back. Moreover, at this moment, he was still doing this kind of thing. This kind of self-confidence had reached the point of madness. As a realm lord and the deacon of the divine escort mansion, it seems like you can only do things worse than pigs and dogs. Lin Ling couldn't help but shake his head. The middle-aged man immediately glanced at Lin Ling and increased his thrusting speed. He said indifferently, "You should be a country bumpkin who invited you here. No wonder you're so insensible. Wait, after I'm done, I'll play with you." The woman beneath him had long wanted to leave, but she didn't dare to move as the head deacon didn't say anything. She could only continue to cater to him. "You want me to wait? Do you think I have time to wait here?" Hearing this, Lin Ling smiled. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he prepared to attack. Ah! However, before Lin Ling could make a move, the middle-aged man let out a loud roar. His entire body seemed to be leaking something as he sat down on the bed. A moment later, he swaggered out of the bed without even putting on his clothes. Lin Ling was originally furious, but he couldn't help but laugh. "I thought I would have to wait for a long time, but in the end, it didn't even take 3 breaths. 3 breaths, man, how sad." Please, 3 breaths don't count as waiting, do you understand? The middle-aged man swaggered over, but after hearing Lin Ling's words, he was startled at first, then immediately trembled in anger. However, Lin Ling couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with him. He moved and immediately appeared in front of the middle-aged man. The tyrannical song sword appeared in his hand, and with a light flick, the middle-aged man's thing was picked up by the sword. With just a light flick, the man's precious thing would be cut off. Only now did the middle-aged man react. Was this young man so strong? Just as Lin Ling wanted to say something, he suddenly stared at the middle-aged man and couldn't help but laugh. I see that you are tall and strong, but in the end, this thing is so thin and weak, like an earthworm, ha ha ha. What exactly do you want? The middle-aged man was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Don't be angry, otherwise, even if I don't move, your little earthworm will be cut off by the sword, because your little earthworm is too small. Now, let me ask you a question. After Lin Ling laughed, he said indifferently, Are you the head deacon of the branch? How many of them are there in your divine escort mansion? I don't know. The middle-aged man immediately shook his head coldly. I don't know. Lin Ling quietly raised the sword in his hand. Sensing this, the middle-aged man roared. I know. There are a total of 18 branches like ours, and there are a total of 72 branches under the branches. So many. Lin Ling was secretly surprised and then asked. Then who are the head deacon of these 18 branches? Don't tell me that they are all head deacons like you, a useless embroidery needle. Don't talk nonsense. In the 18 branches, other than my place, the other places are all experts, and I only have this privilege because my father is a great escort. The middle-aged man immediately said. Then you should know the address of the 18 branches. Tell me everything. Lin Ling said again. This, I really don't know. Speaking of this, the middle-aged man obviously didn't dare to speak casually. This was obviously a secret of the divine escort mansion. Shill. Lin Ling didn't say much nonsense, and with a light flick of his sword, a small earthworm was immediately cut off by the sword and fell to the ground. The man was stunned, and then he screamed like a pig being slaughtered, fell to the ground, and kept rolling. Lin Ling sneered, walked over and kicked a few times, and said, Stop pretending with your earthworm's penis, it won't hurt much even if it's broken. Nonsense, no matter how small my penis is, it will still hurt. The middle-aged man shouted in pain and replied with difficulty. He was so angry that he almost died. His man's most precious thing was destroyed, and he still had the face to mock him? I don't like to talk nonsense, so I'll ask you again, where is the address of the 18 branches? Pointing his sword at the middle-aged man, Lin Ling asked indifferently. The 3rd brick beside the bed. It has the location of all the branches. In the end, the middle-aged man was afraid of Lin Ling, so he said with difficulty. Lin Ling looked at the bed. At this moment, the girl on the bed witnessed everything with her own eyes. She was so scared that she forgot to wear her clothes. However, Lin Ling didn't have time to admire her, and he didn't want to. He stretched out his right hand and grabbed the girl and threw her to the side. Then, he used his realm essence to search around the bed, and finally found a sheepskin map in the 3rd brick. After opening it and looking at it, Lin Ling was sure that this was what he was looking for. Then, he turned and left. The middle-aged man was still rolling between his legs, but then, he also picked up his penis. Seeing that Lin Ling had left, he let out a sigh of relief. However, just as he was about to inform the others to kill Lin Ling, and even help to fix his little earthworm, in the sky, tens of thousands of arrows had already shot down. Not only did they want to destroy the branch here, they also wanted to destroy the city here. As for the broken penis, since he had lost his life, there was no need to fix it back. The next day, the people of the nearby tribes received good news. The world master of the Horsehoof realm had fallen, and the divine escort mansion's branch had been eradicated. For a time, the people of the Horsehoof realm were happy as if it was a new year. And Lin Ling had already left the Horsehoof realm. He had obtained the map of all the branches, so he planned to take revenge on the divine escort mansion. Chapter 3502. In the Yen State. One of the 18 branches had been destroyed. If he were to go to the remaining 17 one by one, it would be very time-consuming. Therefore, Lin Ling planned to use the dragon demons in the Dragon Pearl. Speaking of which, This was the first time the dragon demons had come out since he went to the final world. Next, Lin Ling held one of the dragon pearl fragments and moved his mind. In the blink of an eye, a large number of dragon demons appeared in the void. Each of them was as large as a mountain and as large as a sea. The entire void was occupied by these dragon demons. It was terrifying. Young master. After the dragon demons came out, they looked around curiously and then looked at Lin Ling with a smile. Thank you for your hard work during this period of time, Lin Ling said to all the dragon demons. Ever since he went to the final world, it was inconvenient for him to use the dragon demons. Therefore, he could only hide them in the dragon pearl. It's fine. Young master probably doesn't know that not only is there a world in the dragon pearl, but it also leads to another world. Therefore, during this period of time, we weren't bored. The dragon demons laughed. One of them, who was the most familiar with Lin Ling, asked, "Young master, are you ready for revenge?" Lin Ling immediately nodded. However, this time, the one I want to take revenge on is the divine escort mansion. As for martial god Wen Tian, I still don't have the strength to fight against him. Okay, where do you need our help? There are 18 branches here. I destroyed one earlier. I hope you can help me destroy 16 and leave the remaining one to me. How about it? Lin Ling took out the map and pointed it out to the dragon demons. Obviously, this was the first time the dragon demons had seen the map of the 9 prefectures. Therefore, they couldn't understand it for a while. However, they could forcefully memorize it. As long as they could memorize it, everything would be easy to find. Okay, young master, wait for our good news. The dragon demons immediately spread out and flew in different directions in the void. Lin Ling was not worried about them at all because there were many dragon demons. If they worked together, unless there was a martial god, no one could stop these dragon demons. The godly escort mansion is a great force that can be found all over the 9 continents. There must be a reason why they haven't fallen after so many years. I believe that they have quite a number of martial progenitors. However, I have just come out from the final world and have seen the martial progenitors there. Those experts are obviously more talented. Those from the 9 continents are no match for them. In fact, I estimate that the divine escort mansion doesn't even have a 5th grade ultimate desolate body. In the past, the godly escort mansion was an extremely powerful existence to me. But now, I can destroy it with a flip of my hand. Lin Ling looked at the map in his hand and was surprised to find that this branch was in the Yen state. I can go back and see master. Lin Ling couldn't help but smile. Taking a step forward, ripples appeared in the air. He was like a god who had returned after thousands of years. Step by step, he walked towards the Yen province. His speed didn't seem fast, but in the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the horizon. Lin Ling appeared in the sky of the Yen province. Even the new Flame Emperor didn't notice his arrival. Lin Ling's gaze swept across the entire Yen province. The Yen province hadn't changed much from before. Perhaps the only change was that the Flame Emperor had been killed by the 9th god Eye. Lin Ling shook his head. He didn't have any good feelings for the Yen province, so he went directly to find his master. He walked in the sky of the Yen province. Your Excellency, you are in such a good mood. You are casually walking in the Yen province, and you look very unfamiliar. It must be your first time here. At this moment, someone saw Lin Ling and smiled faintly. The person who spoke was a man in white. He was at the peak of the Saint Realm. Because his cultivation seemed to be higher than Lin Ling's, he couldn't help but mock him when he saw that Lin Ling was so proud of his cultivation. Unfortunately, Lin Ling didn't pay any attention to him. Master, this person is so rude. That's right. Master kindly reminded him, but he didn't even look at Master. Seeing that Lin Ling was still walking forward, the disciples around the man in white were immediately displeased. It's fine, it's fine. When he kicked the stone, he knew whether his foot hurt or not. If we ask him now, he will definitely say that the wine is very fragrant and the road is easy. The white-clothed man said confidently as he led the group of disciples forward. Your Excellency, could you be Lin Ling? Not long after, another voice sounded. This voice was extremely solemn. Then, an expert at the initial stage of the martial ancestor realm appeared and looked gravely at Lin Ling. Lin Ling glanced at him and didn't recognize him. He shook his head and continued forward. Senior Zhen Nanzi of the Miao province. As for the man in white and the others not far away, Their pupils violently trembled. This was because Senior Zhen Nanzi was an extremely ancient existence, even more ancient than the previous Flame Emperor. He knew everything that happened in the Yan province, so he was highly respected. Now, he actually knew the man. Most importantly, when Senior Zhen Nanzi greeted the man looked indifferent. Oh my god, that man seems to be only at the 7th Heaven Sage realm. With such strength, when did he have the qualifications to be a boss? It seems that you really are Lin Ling. I didn't expect to meet you again. Seeing that Lin Ling was ignoring him, the expert who had appeared wasn't angry. He followed behind and said calmly, "May I ask if you have anything to do with the Flame Emperor's death?" What? When these words came out, even the man in white and his disciples were shocked. The Flame Emperor had died a long time ago. Everyone in the Yan province knew about this. Furthermore, the Flame Emperor had gone to one of the 7 forbidden lands of Huanyu and finally died there. Although no one knew how the Flame Emperor had died, anyone could imagine that the battle must have been intense. It was probably the highest level battlefield in the 9 states. But now, that expert was saying that the Flame Emperor's death was related to a junior at the Saint Realm? Wasn't this joke a little too big? Half-half. When Lin Ling heard the question, his expression didn't change. He calmly replied. The Flame Emperor had died in the Starry Sky Forest, killed by the 9th God Eye, so he could only say half. After all, this wasn't Lin Ling's doing. However, the 9th God Eye and Lin Ling were friends, so it couldn't be said that they had nothing to do with each other. It's true. It seems that the rumors are true. Lin Ling, what happened back then? Please tell me. Hearing Lin Ling's reply, the expert's expression changed greatly. He quickly chased after him and asked again. Scram. However, Lin Ling was still walking forward, but his shadow suddenly bared its fangs and brandished its claws. Its ferocity was monstrous. Ah! The martial ancestor expert's heart was about to explode. He didn't dare to continue chasing. He stopped in place, his heart trembling violently. He didn't even dare to raise his head to look at Lin Ling. This undoubtedly scared the man in white and the others so much that they fell from the sky to the ground. The martial ancestor expert was so frightened by a single word that he didn't dare to move. Was this still the weak 7th Heaven Saint in their eyes? Chapter 3503. A Long Talk with Master. Looking around, the Great Change Nebula sect was filled with talented people. It was much livelier than before. Master. After Lin Ling arrived, he did not care about the rules and shouted. His shout shocked the entire sect. All the disciples were shocked, and then they were furious. It was the same for those elders. However, when they clearly saw the person who had arrived, their anger immediately disappeared. What replaced it was shock and disbelief. That was because Lin Ling was back. Sect leader. Someone immediately sent a voice transmission to the Great Change Patriarch. In fact, the Great Change Patriarch had already sensed that someone was approaching. However, he was now sure of who it was. As for Xing Shiyun, he rushed out from the West Mountain. When he saw Lin Ling with his hands behind his back, he was overjoyed. He did not expect that the disciple he took in Qingzhou back then had become a godlike existence in the 9 states today. Moreover, compared to the last time when he sent him back, the current Lin Ling was even more indescribable. It felt as if Lin Ling had returned from the world of God and had already received God's mantle. My good disciple. After Xing Shiyun rushed out, he immediately stopped and looked at the sky excitedly. Lin Ling also saw Xing Xiaoyun and couldn't help but smile excitedly. He took a step forward and stood in front of Xing Xiaoyun, bowing slightly. Good. It's good that you're back. Xing Shiyun excitedly helped Lin Ling up. He was so happy that he did not know what to say. On the other hand, Lin Ling smiled and asked, Master, have you been staying in Yen State all this time? Of course not. I went back to Spirit State some time ago and stayed there for a while. By the way, Master Tantric missed you. Xing Shiyun immediately said. Oh, what about Master's wife? Master, how long do you want to drag this out? You're living in Yen Province now, but she's in Spirit Province. If the two of you are separated for a long time, maybe she'll find someone else to marry. Anyway, other than your bad temper, you don't have any other good points. I think you're much better than that, Master Tantric. Lin Ling teased. Xing Shiyun immediately felt awkward. He laughed dryly and said, "Actually, there's nothing between us. She's not your mistress yet." He naturally knew who Lin Ling was talking about. It was the island master of Peach Blossom Island, whom Long Yang had worshipped in the Spirit Province. "Since there's nothing between you two, I'll immediately tell Master Tantra to marry that island owner." Hearing this, Lin Ling turned around and left. "No, no, no." Xing Shiyun immediately pulled Lin Ling back, her face turning even redder. Seeing this, Lin Ling couldn't help but sigh. "Master, she has waited for you for so long. What's the point of wasting time like this? Since both parties like her, I'll arrange this marriage for you." "This all right then." Xing Shiyun lowered her head and said. From afar, Lin Ling looked more like a master, while Xing Shiyun looked more like a disciple. However, Lin Ling could tell that Xing Shiyun liked that woman very much, but he couldn't bring himself to ask for her hand in marriage. If an ordinary person were to ask for her hand in marriage, they wouldn't have the right to do so. Only Lin Ling was suitable. "How about this? After I'm done with the matters in Yen Province, I'll go back with you. I'll also go back to Qing Province to take a look." Lin Ling immediately made up his mind. Since his master was getting married, he would definitely support him. Therefore, his return to the final world would probably have to be delayed. "Where are you going, disciple?" Hearing that Lin Ling was going to leave temporarily, Xing Shiyun immediately asked curiously. "There's a branch of the Mansion of Divine Escort here. Today, I'm here for him. Last time, the Mansion of Divine Escort hunted me down. Today, I'm here to hunt them down." Lin Ling didn't hide anything and said with a faint smile. At this moment, Tai Yi Ancestor and the others were standing in the distance. They didn't dare to interrupt and could only quietly listen to the conversation between the master and disciple. When they heard Lin Ling's words, Tai Yi Ancestor and the elders immediately gasped. The disciples were even more curious. "Elder, who is this? Why does he look so arrogant?" "Yes. I just heard from the elders that this guy's realm is not even comparable to the sect leaders. I don't know what right he has to be arrogant." "Yes." The disciples were whispering to each other. "He's the son of devil, Lin Ling, speaking of which, he's also your elders. Therefore when you see him, you must show him sufficient respect." "Yes." The elder of Tai Yi Nebula sect immediately said. "The son of devil?" "Yes." Some people's expressions changed, while others didn't react. Obviously, not all of these new disciples had heard of the son of devil, Lin Ling. The Mansion of Divine Escort is very close to the Flaming Emperor. If you go to collect the debt, I'm afraid the Flaming Emperor will stop you. Sigh. At this moment, Xing Shiyun looked at Lin Ling, who was leaving, and couldn't help but feel worried. "Flaming Emperor, if he doesn't know what's good for him, I don't mind demoting him." Sigh. However, the young man's domineering voice came from afar. Under the blazing sun, the young man walked away step by step. At this moment, the radiance that radiated from his body was even more terrifying than the Flaming Emperor of Yen's state. Tai Yi Ancestor didn't know if Lin Ling was bluffing, but for some reason, when he looked at the back of the young man, he had a feeling that if the young man wanted to kill him, he could do so with just a flick of his finger. This feeling made Tai Yi Ancestor shiver. Since when had Lin Ling reached such a level of strength? He was much more powerful than Tai Yi Ancestor. Moreover, this feeling was so strong and so real. He couldn't help but look at Xing Shiyun. Then he shook his head in shock. He didn't expect that Xing Shiyun, who had been very ordinary all his life, would recruit such a terrifying disciple. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call him the Devil King. This was because he was probably the only one who dared to ignore the Flaming Emperor in Yen's state. At this moment, Lin Ling was walking in another direction. Everything seemed casual. However, as he got closer and closer to the Mansion of Divine Escort's branch, a scholarly middle-aged man suddenly appeared in the sky in front of him. He held a scroll in his hand and was reading as he walked. He gave off a very good temperament. Lin Ling's eyes flickered. Then he smiled disdainfully. He ignored him and strode over. When he passed by the middle-aged man, he didn't even look at him. This unusual action undoubtedly caused the middle-aged man to be taken aback. He thought that Lin Ling would interrupt him and ask him a question. However, Lin Ling acted as if he didn't see him. "Are you stupid? Please, if you want to use strange methods to attract people's attention, you should at least come up with something new. This method hasn't been popular for 3,000 years. Just as he was surprised, Lin Ling's disdainful voice suddenly came from behind him. The middle-aged man was stunned, and he suddenly felt a little embarrassed and angry. He deliberately pretended to be mysterious, but in Lin Ling's eyes, there was no mystery in all of this. Instead, it seemed very vulgar. "Tell me, what do you want from me?" Lin Ling's voice floated over again, with a touch of coldness in it. Chapter 3504. Half an hour. I am the Flame Emperor. May I ask the son of the devil, Lin Ling, why are you here? I hope you can come up with a good reason to convince me. Otherwise, even if you are a famous person in the 9 states, I can't help you. After all, I am responsible for the people of the Yen state. The middle-aged man carried Lin Ling on his back as he spoke plainly. Convince you? So that's how it is. However, I don't like to persuade others. Therefore, I didn't come here with good intentions. I came here for the divine escort mansion. That's all. Lin Ling's voice drifted over. I don't care what grudges you have with the godly escort mansion, but this is the Yen state. As long as the godly escort mansion is in the Yen state, they are under my rule. I have the right to protect them. Therefore, before you make a big mistake, put away your thoughts. The middle-aged man frowned and threatened. I'm sorry. I don't mean to look down on you. From the beginning, I didn't take you seriously. Your words are like farts to me. Lin Ling smiled disdainfully. How dare you? The middle-aged man finally turned his head and looked coldly at Lin Ling. Make your move. Lin Ling smiled as well. The two powerful people immediately clashed in the sky. However, although the middle-aged man was the newly appointed Flame Emperor, his strength was extremely impressive. It had only been an hour, but Lin Ling was already retreating in defeat. Son of the devil, Lin Ling, why are you forcing me to make my move? You should know that as the Flame Emperor, I won't allow anyone to cause trouble in my territory. Although you are very famous and arrogant, sometimes, arrogance is built on strength. As time passed, Lin Ling became weaker and weaker. The middle-aged man's aura increased greatly and finally defeated Lin Ling. However, after he was defeated, Lin Ling, who was in front of him, suddenly disappeared. Everything disappeared, as if he had never been there. This stunned the middle-aged man. Then, he realized that he had been fooled. Previously, he had only been fighting against his illusions. The real Lin Ling had long since left. This made him feel extremely ashamed, as if he had no face to see anyone. Previously he had said so much, but it turned out that everything was just an act. Lin Ling was simply treating him like an idiot. He didn't even have the mood to say another word of nonsense. And that was indeed the case. At this moment, Lin Ling had already arrived at the Godly Escort Mansion's branch. In just 1 hour, he had fought his way from the outermost perimeter to the core. And this was the reason why he was playing slowly. The ground was littered with corpses, and blood flowed like a river. Those who didn't die were all injured. They held their chests and hid in fear, not daring to fight anymore. They all knew that the enemy was the son of the devil, Lin Ling. This was because this person introduced himself as soon as he arrived. He did not hide anything at all. However, they didn't expect that the son of devil Lin Ling would be so arrogant as to threaten to crush their branch. However, ordinary experts were unable to stop Lin Ling. They could only rely on the chief escorts of the branch. As Lin Ling continued to fight, an expert finally appeared. It was a 4th-layer martial progenitor realm cultivator, a skinny old man with a monkey-like mouth. It was obvious that he possessed a great status in the Godly Escort Mansion. After his appearance, the escorts fell silent. That's right, this person was one of the first batch of escorts of the Godly Escort Mansion. His name was De Green Robe. The son of devil, Lin Ling, if you join our Godly Escort Mansion, you will be appointed as the chief escort of a branch. What do you think? The skinny old man placed his hands behind him. He did not attack Lin Ling right away. What? The crowd was shocked by the decision. Some of the seniors stared at the skinny old man in a questioning manner. However, the skinny old man only harumphed coldly, as if he were saying, "What do you know?" The crowd no longer dared to ask any further. Only the skinny old man knew that they had offended Lin Ling in the past in order to earn the favor of the Flame Emperor. However, Lin Ling was still very weak at that time, thus they did not think there was anything to be afraid of. Furthermore, the godly escort mansion would surely help Duan Yi of the Duan clan, thus they had offended Lin Ling once again. However, to their surprise, Lin Ling was still alive even after facing the Duan clan. This made them realize that they had made the wrong move back then. Therefore, they were now trying their best to salvage the situation. They hoped to give Lin Ling a great status so that Lin Ling could join them. That way, not only would they be able to resolve their grudge, they would also be able to rope in an expert. The son of devil, Lin Ling, what do you think? The skinny old man asked after a while. Lin Ling remained silent. He only smiled. What are you smiling at? The skinny old man immediately frowned. I'm smiling. What's the big deal about being a chief escort? Lin Ling was still smiling, but he also spoke up. Everyone's eyes widened when they heard this. However, some of them doubted their ears. Lin Ling only needed to nod his head and he would become a chief escort. There were a total of 18 chief escorts, and they were the 18 people with the highest status below the god of escort. These people generally did not need to guard their escorts, but they were constantly receiving imperial crystals. Their status was also high, and they could mobilize the experts of the branch. How could Lin Ling reject such an offer? What did you say? The skinny old man felt humiliated. Old man, I think you look like a monkey. Your ears should be fine. Lin Ling shook his head. Then let me be clear. I'm here today to destroy your branch. Even if I were to become a god of escort, I don't think I'm qualified enough, let alone a chief escort. How dare you? The skinny old man was finally enraged. He stretched out his thin and withered hand as if he wanted to break through all illusions. Prajna, hatred, blood battle song, song of the vast sky. The palm formed a ferocious ancestral power that reached 50%. It suppressed Lin Ling. As for the old man's talent, it was a battle chart, an ancient battle chart. It seemed to be a time chart used by the gods to record ancient battles. The moment this talent was used, the mournful song changed the color of the world. Chief escort. Upon seeing this, everyone was overjoyed. From their point of view, the skinny old man's means were the strongest and invincible. This guy has an ultimate third-grade desolate body. Lin Ling muttered to himself. In the 9 provinces, ultimate desolate bodies were very rare. As for a third-grade desolate body, it was 1 in a million. It was no wonder the old man could become a chief escort. Sword come. Lin Ling growled as the tyrannical song sword floated out from behind him. Instead of retreating, he advanced. The tyrannical song sword slashed at the battle song in front of him. This strike stirred the universe as demonic aura billowed. Moments later, a horrified voice was heard. Ancestral power? You also have ancestral power. The voice came from the chief escort. Lin Ling did not answer him. His 3 talents fused together and grew rapidly, transforming into a monster. Furthermore, he put away the tyrannical song sword and used his dragon claw to resist the enemy. However, although the dragon claw did not seem to have any ancestral power, the power it brought was even more terrifying than ancestral power. This was because the dragon claw suppressed the physical strength of the body. Chapter 3505. Stomp. What if Lin Ling reached the martial ancestor realm? He did not dare to imagine it. Seeing the dragon claw coming at him, he immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. He opened the war map and formed a magnificent army that charged forward. This was supposed to be his ultimate technique, but he had not expected it to be used for defense. Speaking of which, the chief escort was extremely depressed at this moment. The magnificent army continued to charge forward and blocked the dragon claw for a while. However, the magnificent army could not hold on for long. This made the elder's face turn paler and paler. Son of the devil, Lin Ling, do me a favor. Yes. At this moment, the Flame Emperor finally arrived. He was immediately shocked. First, he did not expect the divine escort mansion to be beaten to such a state within an hour. Second, Lin Ling was actually suppressing the chief escort. One should know that the chief escort was stronger than him, unless he used the ancient power. Third, Lin Ling seemed to have really become the son of the devil. His entire body was pitch black, and his hands were like dragons. Rumble. However, as soon as the Flame Emperor finished speaking, a terrifying ancient monument came crashing down from the sky. The ancient majesty was extremely terrifying. Bang! Unstoppable, the Flame Emperor was directly suppressed to the ground. He could not turn around at all, which stunned everyone. They thought that the son of the devil, Lin Ling, would definitely die when the Flame Emperor arrived. In the end, the dignified #1 God Emperor of the Yen state could not withstand a single blow. Furthermore, this was when the son of the devil, Lin Ling, was fighting the chief escort. What if it was a one-on-one battle? At the thought of this, everyone shuddered. It was only now that people realized that the son of the devil was completely different from the rumors. He could now do whatever he wanted in the 9 states. Where has he been all this time? Why has his strength changed so much? Many people secretly wondered. Ancient power. At this moment, the Flame Emperor let out a low roar. In the sky, the ancient palace began to descend. It was majestic, as if it recorded all the secrets of the Yen state from ancient times to the present. The ancient power was a power that the gods had left behind for the 9 prefectures' god emperors to control the divine prefecture. The ancient power of the Yen state was obviously stronger than that of other places. Once the palace appeared, the entire Yen state was shaken. This made many people realize that there was going to be a great battle in the Yen state. Rumble. Almost at the same time, the time and space divine steel on the Flame Emperor's body was knocked over. As for Lin Ling's huge demonic body, a huge ancient palace came down on him. This allowed the chief escort to escape. He shouted, "Kill him, Flame Emperor." Through the previous battle, he knew that Lin Ling had reached a terrifying level. It could be said that no one in the godly escort mansion was a match for him except for the god of escort. As for the divine escort mansion, other than the first fortune and second fortune, no one else in the Fu Hang Manor was a match for Lin Ling. Only 1 or 2 assassins from the assassin organization could threaten Lin Ling. If they didn't kill Lin Ling now, the 9 prefectures would fall into chaos. Lin Ling, I've said it before. This is the Yen state, my territory. At this moment, the Flame Emperor spat out blood and stood up with an ugly expression. Previously, when he was smashed by Lin Ling, his face was covered in dirt. Of course, he was furious because Lin Ling didn't take him, the Flame Emperor, seriously. Who do you think you are? On the ground, Lin Ling stood like a giant. His hands were holding the sky, one on the left and one on the right. The dragon god roared. Go to hell, Lin Ling. Son of the devil, you still have the nerve to live. Today you're dead. Many people saw that Lin Ling was being suppressed and started cursing. However, after Lin Ling raised the ancient power even higher, they were so scared that they didn't dare to speak. Rumble. Lin Ling raised his hands to the sky and raised the ancient power even higher. Oh my god, this freak. Even the ancient power can't stop him. Everyone retreated, their faces turning even paler. Don't be afraid of him. My ancient power is not something he can break free from. The Flame Emperor was also shocked by Lin Ling's power. How was he still human? He was simply the great demon king of the 9 states. You think I can't kill you? Let me tell you, although I didn't kill the previous Flame Emperor, his death was related to me. Today, you, the new Flame Emperor, dare to be arrogant in front of me? Lin Ling raised the ancient shrine with both hands and looked down at the Flame Emperor as he spoke. Hearing this, the Flame Emperor was furious. In Lin Ling's eyes, he seemed to have become a junior. This was a great humiliation. Arrogant. The head escort also shouted angrily. The dignified emperor god of the Yen state was such an insignificant existence in Lin Ling's eyes. Lin Ling had gone too far. The emperor god of the Yen state was ranked second in the 9 states. Other than the emperor god of the Miao state who could compete with him, the other emperor gods could only admit defeat. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. At this time, Lin Ling raised his right hand high. What was terrifying was that the huge ancient power was lifted by him again, and it was with only one hand. How terrifying! Is this guy still human? Everyone was so scared that their eyeballs almost fell out. However, what made them even more terrified was that Lin Ling stretched out his other hand. The dragon bow appeared, and the dragon god's arrow was shot out majestically. How is this possible? The Flame Emperor was tongue-tied. Cold sweat poured down his forehead. The reason why he was not afraid of Lin Ling was that he was confident in his ancient power, and Lin Ling definitely could not break it. However, he now realized that Lin Ling could not break the ancient power, but he could resist it and use the extra time to launch a powerful attack on the Flame Emperor. This was indeed the true terror. Countless dragon god's arrows were shot out. They were many times more powerful than before. The head escort's face changed greatly. As for the Flame Emperor, he only wanted to retreat and shake hands with Lin Ling. He knew that he thought too highly of himself if he thought that he could stop Lin Ling with his strength. Unfortunately, it was all too late. Thousands of arrows pierced through the heart and blew the Flame Emperor into pieces. The poor Flame Emperor, who had just ascended to the throne, was now chasing after the previous emperor. The Yen state could be considered to be in troubled times. With the Flame Emperor dead, the head escort knew that the situation was over. He was not willing to die so easily, so he self-destructed all his realm essence. The self-destruction of a level 4 martial ancestor almost destroyed the entire Yen state. After all, the strongest in the Yen state was only a level 1 martial ancestor. A level 4 martial ancestor was the limit. Everyone immediately panicked and hurriedly looked at Lin Ling. Lin Ling's body was huge, so he was naturally the most affected. His entire body was blown into 2 halves, but he recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. The self-destruction could even kill a martial ancestor, but Lin Ling, a sage, was unharmed. How terrifying was Lin Ling's physical defense! The son of the devil, Lin Ling, is simply an omnipotent god. The remaining people of the divine escort mansion looked extremely dispirited. They knew that after offending Lin Ling, they would have to fight with Lin Ling one day. However, they did not expect that day to come so soon. Moreover, it was not a fight, but Lin Ling who attacked them first. Chapter 3506. Surrender. The branch was the main branch of the escort agency. How could the entire godly escort mansion not be implicated when it was uprooted? Unfortunately, they didn't know that there were other branches that had been annihilated just like them. Every injustice has its perpetrator. I, Lin Ling, used to say in the Yen state that whoever tries to kill me will be repaid in the future. I believe that everyone here has more or less heard of this. Therefore, you don't have to be too surprised. Now you can resist, but you won't stop me from killing you. Lin Ling, who was like a demon, looked at the remaining people. In his eyes, the space-time divine steel came crashing down. Every glance killed countless people. Every glance sent people into reincarnation. Every glance ended karma. In the end, all the escorts of the godly escort mansion were killed by Lin Ling. Not a single one was left alive. The Yen state suddenly became peaceful because the top experts were all dead. Lin Ling smiled. He didn't go to the Grand Change Nebula sect. Instead, he went to the Universal Void. He planned to take action against the headquarters of the godly escort mansion. At this moment, an old man was sitting quietly in the headquarters of the godly escort mansion. Behind him, an ancient silk banner was fluttering. The banner looked a little tattered, but it was the first banner of the godly escort mansion since its establishment. The banner was extraordinary and priceless. Only the head escort god of the godly escort mansion was qualified to receive it. The godly escort mansion of the Yen state has been annihilated. The head escort master is dead. The murderer is the son of the devil, Lin Ling. Someone looked at the old man and said with a face full of anger. Obviously, although the godly escort mansion knew that Lin Ling would take revenge, they didn't expect him to destroy the branch so quickly and crazily. Inform the other branches and ask all the head escorts to come back and kill Lin Ling together. The old man's face was extremely gloomy as he gave the final order. Head escort god, bad news. However, at this moment, someone rushed in anxiously. He didn't even bother to salute and shouted, "The branch in Yuzhou has been uprooted. Not a single one of them is left." What? The head escort's expression became uneasy. Head escort, we're in trouble. However, this was only the beginning. More people rushed in, and the news they brought was that another branch had fallen. Following that, more and more news of the destruction of the branches came. In the end, all 18 branches were uprooted. Not even a chicken or a dog was left. Plop. The head escort sat down powerlessly, a look of panic on his aged face. This was clearly a premeditated operation. In a short period of time, all 18 of their branches had been launched at the same time, and they had destroyed them one by one. The 18 branches of the Mansion of Divine Escort were the foundation of the escort agency. They were also the unshakable foundation of the escort agency. Their branches were spread all over the 9 regions and the 10,000 worlds. However, now that they were destroyed, it meant that the vitality of the Mansion of Divine Escort had been greatly damaged. It would be difficult for it to return to its former glory 10,000 years ago. That was because all the dots had been removed. Without the dots, how could he receive the darts? Who is it? We've worked so hard to build this branch for so many years. Who is so ruthless as to uproot it? Who else could it be? Other than the son of the devil, Lin Ling, who else could be so ruthless? Does the son of the devil Lin Ling have such power? Of course he does. Don't forget that when Duan Yi was in Qingzhou, if martial god Wen Tian hadn't appeared, Duan Yi would have died there. Therefore, Lin Ling must have a great force that's second only to the martial god. Ancestor head escort god, what should we do? Everyone in the headquarters was terrified. They had never expected that because of Lin Ling, their escort agency, which had a long history, would end up in such a situation. As for the oldest old man in the godly escort mansion, he sat there quietly. His face was cold and he sighed. At first, he was furious and wanted to go all out to kill Lin Ling. However, after calming down, he realized that unless he was a martial god, he wouldn't be able to kill Lin Ling. Moreover, a real martial god also wanted to kill Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling was still alive and well. This meant that someone was secretly protecting Lin Ling. Therefore, he knew that Lin Ling couldn't be offended. The godly escort mansion could only swallow this bitter pill. Son of the devil, who else can force me to this point except for you? Roar! The head escort god roared at the sky. Then, he spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body was dispirited. Head escort god. Everyone immediately shouted, extremely worried. Don't worry, I'm fine. Inform the son of the devil, Lin Ling. Just ask him how this matter will end. I hope that the son of the devil will state his conditions and let our godly escort mansion go. Then, the old man looked at everyone and said, Head escort god, why are you letting him off so easily? He destroyed our branch. We should fight him to the death. Yes, we still have to fulfill the son of the devil's conditions. This is humiliating us to death. Is there no other way? Hearing the old man's words, everyone became anxious. There's no other way. If we continue to fight with the son of the devil, our godly escort mansion's business will forever be destroyed in our hands. We can't win this battle. We can never win. We can only surrender. This is the only way out. The old man couldn't help but sigh. His expression seemed to have aged a few hundred years in an instant. Everyone was shocked once again. The godly escort mansion had reached the point where there was no way out. It was really unbelievable. Okay, I'll inform him. Finally, someone made a decision. At this moment, Lin Ling was still in the universal void. Not long after, the dragon demons returned one by one, holding a large number of treasures and silk banners in their hands. After seeing them, Lin Ling immediately knew that all the branches of the godly escort mansion had been destroyed. This made Lin Ling sigh. The godly escort mansion was the only escort team recognized by the 9 regions. It had been established for so many years and had not collapsed. It must have its own capabilities. However, today, all 18 branches were destroyed together. It was impossible not to sigh. Thank you, everyone. Seeing the dragon demons return, Lin Ling immediately thanked them. Then, he asked them about their next plans. However, to their surprise, the dragon demons wanted to return to the Dragon Pearl because the Dragon Pearl led to another world. There were still many things that they had not finished in that world. Lin Ling was speechless. According to his guess, after the dragon demons left the Rainbow World, they would definitely want to explore the Universal Void. Although Lin Ling was reluctant to let them leave, he would not force them to stay. However, Lin Ling asked them to leave. Now, it seemed that they did not want to leave and were relying on the Dragon Pearl. In this regard, Lin Ling naturally agreed. With these dragon demons, unless a martial god-level expert came, no one could touch him. While he was rejoicing, the people of the godly escort mansion also arrived. After seeing Lin Ling, they were extremely polite and explained the purpose of their visit.
Chapter 3507. Huge sum of money. Surrender? Lin Ling was filled with disdain. He was not done yet. Senior Demon's son, please spare our lives. Give us a way out. This is also a great contribution to the 9 prefectures. Seeing that Lin Ling was in a bad mood, the person cried out. Their head escort god was right. Lin Ling wanted to kill them all. Fortunately, he had surrendered. Otherwise, the mansion of divine escort would have been wiped out. Surrender so quickly? The new heavenly court? Didn't the Flying Dragon organization help you? Lin Ling looked at the person and said calmly. The Flying Dragon organization has been minding their own business most of the time. Why would they care about us? Moreover, I'm afraid they can't wait for us to be wiped out. As for the new heavenly court, unless Wentian Martial God intervenes, Wentian Martial God won't care about us. Senior Demon's son, please spare the mansion of divine escort this time. We won't dare to offend Senior Demon's son again. Furthermore, Senior Demon's son can make any conditions for us. The person kept pleading. From his words, it could be seen that they had no other choice. Are you so sure that I will make conditions and not eliminate all of you? You should know that I had no grudges with you in the beginning. In order to curry favor with the Flame Emperor, you joined forces with them to attack me. Do you think I'll let this go? The mansion of divine escort surrender was obviously out of Lin Ling's expectation. Therefore, he did not agree immediately. We were blind in the beginning. However, what happened has happened. Therefore, I hope that Senior Demon's son will be magnanimous and forgive us this time. The representative of the mansion of divine escort cried out immediately. Lin Ling also began to ponder. Although he could obtain some treasures from destroying the mansion of divine escort, it would not be much. Now that the mansion of divine escort had surrendered, he might as well make some conditions to maximize the benefits. First, compensate me with 30 billion royal crystals. Not a single cent more, not a single cent less. Second, help me suppress Fu Hang Manor, the Flying Dragon organization, and the new heavenly court. Thirdly, if it's someone from Qingzhou, as long as they ask for help, you must agree unconditionally. If you agree to these 3 conditions, the godly escort mansion will have no more grudges with me. Lin Ling also stated his conditions. That person's jaw dropped. 30 billion monarch crystals. How was that possible? These monarch crystals were enough to nurture a martial progenitor. Secondly, helping Lin Ling suppress Fu Xing Manor, Flying Dragon organization, and the new heavenly court was also a thankless task. As for the third place, it wasn't a big deal. Well, this is a serious matter. Can I go back and discuss it with the head escort god? That person immediately looked at Lin Ling and said. However, Lin Ling didn't care and waved his hand, saying, I'll give you 3 days. Go. If you agree, come to the Yen province and find me. Thank you, Senior. Thank you, Senior. That person immediately accepted the order and left. Lin Ling pursed his lips. His plan couldn't keep up with the changes. Originally, he wanted to destroy the headquarters of the godly escort mansion. However, it seemed that it would take him 3 days to do so. I'll go back and discuss with my master about his marriage. I'll also wait for 3 days. Lin Ling slowly walked back to the Yen province and went straight to the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect. Everyone in the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect knew that Lin Ling had killed the Flame Emperor. What was more terrifying was that Lin Ling had killed the Flame Emperor while another expert was present. He was so bold that he treated the Yen province as his home. Therefore, when everyone saw Lin Ling, there was only respect and fear. Even the Grand Simplicity ancestor was the same. Unfortunately, Lin Ling didn't pay much attention to them. He chatted with his master and then returned to the Spirit Province to discuss the marriage with the Vajrayana sect's masters. When Lin Ling returned to the Spirit Province, the entire Spirit Province was undoubtedly in turmoil. Lin Ling thought that it was difficult to prepare for his master's wedding. Therefore, he decided to stay longer and immediately headed to the Qing Province. When the Qing Province knew that Lin Ling had returned, it was no surprise that it was in an uproar. Ancestor Tai Yen, Yu Yu and the rest were already there to welcome him. After Lin Ling, Ancestor Tai Yen, and his son Lin Ling caught up, he was surprised to find that Yu Yu and Xian Yuan Go had reached the 5th level of the Saint Realm. Moreover, their ultimate desolate bodies had reached the 4th grade. This surprised Lin Ling.
This was because there weren't many ultimate desolate bodies in the final world. It was a miracle that Yu and the rest could grow to such a level in the Qing province. Later on, he found out from his conversation with Yu and the rest that not long ago, Yu and the rest had gone to a small realm in the north. They had a fortuitous encounter that led to a crazy increase in their realm and talent. It seems that everyone has their own fortuitous encounter. Anything is possible. After Linling asked, he couldn't help but feel happy for Yu and the rest. This was because fortuitous encounters were something that could only be encountered by chance. Since they had encountered it, they had to grasp it. Fortunately, Yu and the rest had grasped it. Yu, your talent is the same as mine. We both have the bloodline of the dragon race. As for you, you have the power of the radiant dragon god. Especially after reaching the 4th grade, your potential and power are extremely terrifying. Shen Yuan Gu your ultimate desolate body can't compare to Yu's. However, I can give your talent a hint of a dragon's aura. This is because I have the dragon bone and dragon soul. It won't be difficult for me to change it for you. Furthermore, I have treasures on me. If you cultivate them, your overall strength will increase by a lot. Linling constantly gave them pointers. Furthermore, he was extremely happy to see Yu and the rest becoming stronger. Linling was also extremely happy. Of course, while Linling was giving them pointers, he also told them about Anuer. When Yu and the rest heard that Anuer had agreed to come back, they were so happy that they danced with joy. As for the Fire Spirit Princess, the Second Dream, Lu Susu, and all of Linling's women, they were also extremely happy when they heard the news. They surrounded Linling and enjoyed the rare moments that came with great difficulty. Upon closer inspection, each of these women were extremely beautiful. In any world, each of them would be pursued by thousands of men. However, they were all willing to follow Linling alone. They waited for Linling without any complaints or regrets. This moved Linling. At the same time, he would sometimes ask himself if he was worthy. Of course, they had been through too many ups and downs together. Their feelings for each other were firm. Hence, even Linling had only casually asked himself a question. He wouldn't be swayed by it. When Linling brought them to the Yen State, the Divine Weapon Mansion also sent news that they had agreed to all of Linling's conditions. It was so straightforward that even Linling felt that it was a little unreal. However, on second thought, he immediately understood why the Divine Weapon Mansion had agreed so quickly. That was because all 18 divisions had been destroyed. The only thing left in the Divine Weapon Mansion was the headquarters. If the headquarters were destroyed, the Divine Weapon Mansion would cease to exist in this world. Hence, would they still consider it for a long time at a time like this? Here are 30 billion royal crystals. The representative of the Divine Weapon Mansion cried as he handed over the royal crystals. Chapter 3508. Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio Fu Hang Estate's decision. In the final world, Linling had only gotten 30 billion royal crystals from extorting a deputy governor. The deputy governor of the final world was obviously more valuable than the godly escort mansion. Hence, this showed that the godly escort mansion was sincere in their apology. Yu, take these royal crystals and use them for your cultivation. However, don't tell anyone. Linling handed the 30 billion royal crystals to Yu and the rest. This was because he still had 30 billion royal crystals in hand and could upgrade his 5 great elixir fields to another level. However, Linling had no plans to upgrade them at the moment. After the people from the godly escort mansion left, Xing Xiyun's wife was brought over. The entire Grand Simplicity Nebula sect began to bustle with activity as they prepared to help Xing Xiyun get married and start a family. Generally speaking, many people from the Green and Spirit continents were not allowed to enter the Yen State. However, the Emperor of the Yen State had been killed by Linling. Hence, who would dare to stop them? Many people even knew that Linling was in the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect. However, the experts from the Yen State did not dare to look for him. They even guessed that the reason why Linling had attacked the Flaming Emperor was that it was too troublesome to enter the Yen State. Linling wanted to break this rule and thus killed the Flaming Emperor. Many people thought that this was very likely. In other words, they were even more in awe of Linling. Because of a moment of anger, he had killed the Emperor God. Even the ancient power was useless against him. Such an expert could do whatever he wanted in the 9 continents. Lin Ling did not know what they were thinking. While waiting quietly, he quietly left the Yen state and headed to the headquarters of the Fu Hang estate. Tomorrow was the day of Xing Xiyun's wedding. The night before, Lin Ling still went to the headquarters of the Fu Hang estate to kill people. There were 13 blessings in the Fu Hang estate. Other than 13 blessings, who Lin Ling had some impression of, the only other person left was Glorious Sunset. Speaking of which, Lin Ling had met Luo Riyao in Qingzhou. At that time, Fu Hang Manor and Lin Ling were friends and had helped Lin Ling once or twice. Later on, Fu Hang Manor was afraid of the Duan family, so they targeted Lin Ling. Other than these 2 people, Lin Ling did not recognize anyone else. Since they didn't know each other, he didn't intend to give them any face. Night. It was very cold. It was extremely cold. Lin Ling easily found 11 blessings of Fu Xing Manor and invited him out. When the other party saw that it was Lin Ling, his face turned serious. Furthermore, Shi Fu was an old man in his 70s or 80s, whose cultivation was around the 4th layer martial progenitor realm. Unfortunately, this little bit of strength was useless against Lin Ling. In less than 2 hours, the old man was killed by Lin Ling and his head was left behind. Lin Ling did not leave but waited on the way. When the senior from 9th Blessings appeared, Lin Ling defeated him and killed him. In the end, he used their heads to leave a bloodletter for Fu Hang Manor. They were killed by me, Lin Ling. My purpose is simple, revenge. Fu Hang Manor only has 2 choices now. 1. Fight with me, Lin Ling, until one side is completely annihilated. 2. Surrender and pay 100 billion royal crystals, and this matter will be settled. The bloodletter went straight to the point. 1. Fight. 2. Use money to buy a house. When the bloodletter fell into the hands of the experts of Fu Hang Manor, everyone knew that things were going to be troublesome. Lord Yifu, Lin Ling is too arrogant. He killed 2 of our lords. Damn it! It's fine that he killed them. We haven't even done anything yet, but he wants us to surrender and pay 100 billion royal crystals. What a joke. Does he think he's worthy? Why don't we mobilize all of Fu Hang Manor to kill him? Fu Hang Manor was a major force in the 9 states. How could they take this lying down? Moreover, it wasn't as if Fu Hang Manor hadn't been threatened before, but had they ever given in? However, this matter is not as simple as it seems. Since Lin Ling dares to bully us in such a domineering manner, he must have a certain level of confidence. Someone said immediately. What a joke, if he is confident, why does he have to be so sneaky? He can just kill us openly. However, someone was not convinced. As far as I know, he is currently in the Yen province and is holding a wedding for an elder of the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect. That elder is his former master. Therefore, he did not come here openly. I think there are only 2 possibilities. First, he does not dare to go against Fu Xing Manor, so he does not dare to come. 2. He is not free. Some of the commerce experts were analyzing the situation. Moreover, according to the information, Lin Ling killed the Flame Emperor in Yen State. Moreover, the strongest chief escort in Yen State was also killed by Lin Ling. He can do whatever he wants in the 9 states. Therefore, the bloodletter he left behind doesn't seem to make any sense. That's right. I have also received news that the 18 branches of the Mansion of Divine Escort have all been destroyed. Lin Ling's original intention was to exterminate the Mansion of Divine Escort. However, some of them begged for mercy, so he did not exterminate them. Perhaps he has tasted the sweetness of victory from the Escort family, so he used the same method to deal with us. What? This guy has become so powerful. Through continuous analysis and communication, the faces of the experts from Fu Xing Manor became more and more solemn. Their previous fearlessness had been shaken by the current situation. He left the bloodletter saying that if we don't do as he says, he will destroy Fu Hang Manor. However, 100 billion royal crystals is too much. Yes, why don't we send someone to talk to him? Luo Riyao had a friendship with him in the past. Let him go. Fu Hang Manor did not dare to delay and sent Luo Riyao to Yen State to look for Lin Ling. After receiving the order, Luo Riyao was extremely excited. In the past, he was just an ordinary person in Fu Hang Manor. However, after meeting Lin Ling, he had a meteoric rise and climbed up the social ladder. However, just when he thought that he would get higher and higher, Fu Hang Manor suddenly broke off with Lin Ling, which made him feel extremely regretful. However, because of this, he rarely went to look for Lin Ling. He was afraid that he would be implicated by Lin Ling and cause all his hard work to go to waste. However, he did not expect that Lin Ling would play such an important role again. In the entire Fu Hang Manor, only he could meet Lin Ling. If this negotiation was successful, he would have made a great contribution again. Lin Ling, the kid I met in Qing State, has become a figure in 9 states today. Now that I think about it, everything seems to have changed. Thinking of Lin Ling in the past and thinking of Lin Ling now, Luo Riyao could not help but feel emotional. After a long time, he appeared in Yen State. Because of Xing Xiao Yun's wedding, he also sent a congratulatory gift and met many old friends. These old friends were all from Qing State, such as those from the Martial God Battalion, 8th Lord, Red Jade Tiger and so on. Haha, old friend, long time no see. Seeing these old friends, Luo Riyao was extremely excited. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.